Immortal Cultivation begins with time management. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyright or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 126. Sacrificing her life to save the elder sister, she has no regrets. Two sword lights suddenly parted the sea surface, and the seawater was torn apart like a white silk thread. Ling Yunpo was climbing rapidly, and was suddenly pulled away by Anzisu's arm. From the mouth of the dragon chasing behind him, a high-pressure water stream as sharp as a knife was spit out, just brushing Ling Yunpo's scalp. Even if the shot was in vain, Ling Yunpo still felt the extreme sharpness in the water stream, with a terrible power that wanted to tear everything apart. If it hit me, even if I took the risk of being exposed and took out the divine fire cover for defensor, I might not be able to block the attack. The gap in realm cultivation between the Golden Core realm and the Foundation Establishment realm is so great that it makes people despair. I had been deliberate and premeditated for a long time, and only through a sneak attack, I used the Arctic Thunder that restrained the Dragon Clan to hit the dragon, but I still couldn't kill it. The other party can wantonly display the magic power of demons and launch a saturation attack on this side with dense water arrows. Even if he and his senior sister managed to dodge countless times, they would die on the spot if they were hit once. There was really no chance of winning this battle, so they had to run away. As soon as the thought flashed through his mind, he felt a soft jade fragrance in his arms. Senior sister hugged him from the front, and the frost sword light was activated to the extreme, and began to make irregular changes of direction at ultra-high frequency. Ling Yunpo barely managed to hold back the dizziness and quickly turned his head to glance back. He saw that in addition to the 2-inch dragons, there were more startled white-scaled dragons, breaking through the sea from farther away and chasing after them. They were densely packed and overwhelming. At a glance, there were at least hundreds. If he was caught up by hundreds of Jinnan-level dragons, he might as well kill himself with a flying sword on the spot. It would be more painful to die. Ling Yunpo took a deep breath and let Anzisu drag him to various super-high maneuverable flights, but he used all his true energy to activate the Sea of Ki and urgently charge the one-lay water vein divine travel talisman. Finally, the charging was completed. Ling Yunpo was about to activate the talisman when Anzisu suddenly blocked his way again. Then he was hit by a huge force and was not flying with Ling Yunpo. This collision made Ling Yunpo feel dizzy and his stomach was almost churning. He endured the pain and activated the one-lay water vein divine travel talisman. The two of them suddenly disappeared from the spot. The next second, a large number of water arrows that were so dense that they could not be distinguished flooded the place where the two were originally located like a torrent. About a dozen dragons rushed here, staring at the surroundings with golden vertical pupils, and then roared in dragon language. The two human monks ran away. Catch them back. Hurry up and notify the holy envoy. The plan has reached the last minute, and it must not be changed. The roars of thousands of dragons mixed together, shaking the entire sea area with wind and waves of dozens of feet, and the sky and the earth trembled and changed color. As the world spun, Ling Yunpo and Anzisu appeared in a valley, standing in a waist-deep pool. The scenery here was beautiful, and there were no monsters in sight. Ling Yunpo supported Anzisu, but found that her body was weak and she couldn't even stand steadily. And the broken pieces of the fairy sword were embedded in her back, dyeing her whole body bloody. Ling Yunpo was so scared that he quickly tested her breath. Fortunately, she was not dead, and there was hope. For people who practice cultivation, physical damage is the easiest to deal with, which is far less terrible than the toxins and curses of demons, or some insidious magic skills that are known for being difficult to deal with. Ling Yunpo found a house nearby, which was fully equipped with all kinds of furniture, but there was no sign of human habitation. After letting Kunlun Mirror confirm that there was no trap, he let Anzisu lie on the bed, then carefully removed her upper body clothes and pulled out all the embedded fairy sword fragments. Judging from the distribution of the fragments and the angle of penetration, it should be that the senior sister tried to block in front of her to protect her while manipulating the flying sword behind her to intercept the water arrows. As a result, the flying sword could not withstand the power of the magic of hundreds of dragons and was shattered before embedding into her body. Of course, if she hadn't used the flying sword to block it, Senior Sister Am's body would not be able to directly deal with these attacks. Wait, what is this flying sword? Ling Yunpo picked up a bloody fragment and put it in front of his eyes to carefully identify it. Frost sword. In order to buy time for herself to activate the talisman, Senior Sister An actually sacrificed her natal sword, the Frost sword. This is not good. According to the essence of Shushan sword control, the natal sword is connected to the sword immortal's own key, so all aspects of ability have a great bonus. But the destruction of the natal sword is like losing an arm for the sword immortal, which will inevitably lead to stagnation of realm and regression of cultivation. Stagnation of realm means that no matter how you breed and refine key in the short term, you can't continue to improve your realm. The cultivation level regressed, which means that the power that could be exerted at ordinary times was 100%, but now it might only be able to exert 40%. Thinking of this, Ling Yunpo stared at the senior sister who was still unconscious on the bed. His face became uncertain. The time required to recover from the damage of the natal sword varies from person to person, and it may be as short as 2 or 3 months, or as long as half a year or a year. There will be no sequelae after recovery. However, for the sword immortal, losing his natal sword is not as simple as losing a sword. The frost sword has been nurtured by the senior sister for a long time, and it can be said that it is as easy to use as an arm. Even if you find another 10th order flying sword for the senior sister, how can she get used to it in the short term? Even if she gets used to the new immortal sword, what about the Taoism on the sword? It can't be the same as the Taoism of the frost sword. The Taoism sealed on this sword has changed, so doesn't the matching sword fighting method have to change accordingly? What's more, let alone sword fighting style, the battle plan that the sword immortal is used to may have to be completely overturned and started over. The negative impact on the sword immortal himself is far from being eliminated in a few years. Alas, senior sister. Ling Yunpo felt an indescribable feeling of being moved and guilty. Needless to say, the reason for being moved, senior sister sacrificed herself to save him. Even the most heartless person would be moved. As for the guilt, it was because he had too many trump cards that he did not use in order to conceal his identity, which caused senior sister to choose to sacrifice herself. Let alone other things, just the overwhelming water arrows of the dragon group, Luoyan only needed to drive the acquired 5 elements extinction divine light to brush. What about the golden elixir level? The 5 elements divine light is an immortal method. Of course, such a secret thought can only be kept deep in Ling Yunpo's heart. What Nzisu was willing to pay for is the little junior brother Ling Yunpo who worshipped at King Luo Peak. As for a spy trader who deliberately sneaked into Shushan just to steal the fragments of the booty and stone, before we can confirm her attitude, it is better not to show this person. Thinking of this, Ling Yunpo shed a few tears, held Nzisu's slender hand in his hand, and cried out sadly, "Senior sister." Chapter 127. Escape from the demon-locking tower and hide in the Chuanguan ruler. Half a day later, Nzisu finally woke up. Ling Yunpo hurriedly helped his senior sister up carefully. The wound on her back had long been cleaned by Ling Yunpo, and it was confirmed that there was no special energy left. He also applied medicine and bandaged it. But perhaps because of the damage to her natal sword, Nzisu still had a sickly feeling at this time, which was completely opposite to her usual gentle and cool temperament. It was like a Levanshi holding her heart. Although weak and powerless, her charm was even greater than before. Ling Yunpo stayed by the bedside, talking to his senior sister patiently, and shed tears of self-blame, which frightened senior sister and quickly comforted him and told him not to take it to heart. So at the time, it was because time was needed to activate the magic talisman. Nzisu showed an icy expression and smiled. "I was wondering why you didn't leave quickly. In that case, the shattering of the frost sword was meaningful, at least it bought us time to escape." Senior sister, Ling Yunpo was speechless and grateful. To what extent did this senior sister dote on me to say the shattering of my natal sword was meaningful? Don't worry about me. Nzisu continued to comfort him. Master also left me the frost sword before he went into seclusion. Even if I don't have the frost sword, I still have a sword to continue using. Senior sister. Ling Yunpo showed an extremely serious look and said, "One day, I will find an 11th level immortal sword and make it your natal sword." The long-lost Kunlun mirror prompt sounded. Unyielding personality, synchronization value +1. This is a boast. You must know that the so-called 11th level immortal swords are all immortal swords recorded in ancient books, and they have become famous in the hands of ancient great powers. Junior brother hasn't even reached the golden core realm. Where can he get the 11th level immortal sword? However, Nzisu didn't take it as a joke, but just smiled and said, "Okay, then senior sister will wait for your 11th level immortal sword." She stretched out her little finger and made a pinky promise with Ling Yunpo, who was laughing and crying. After a short rest, Nzisu and Ling Yunpo went out together and checked the valley. They didn't find any demons, which was very strange. Somewhere in the valley, the two found the exit of this world. Following the passage back to the octagonal hall, Ling Yunpo was shocked to find that the valley just now is actually the shaman area of the 72nd floor. After using the Wanlei water vein divine travel talisman continuously, he and senior sister actually went all the way down to the 72nd floor. It was extremely lucky that they didn't die. No, the future self once said, I would have encountered a death calamity. In other words, this is just the result of the timeline being corrected. In any case, since the mirror washing and transformation palace has been accelerated, the main purpose of this trip has been completed, so let's leave here quickly. The octagonal hall of the demon locking tower is connected to the lower life gate by an open door on the upper floor. In addition, there are exits directly to the outside world at the life gates on the 350th floors. Ling Yunpo and Zisu kept entering the life gate passage. As the floors they were on continued to rise, the light around them gradually became brighter. When they reached the 50th floor, the surrounding environment suddenly changed. The walls were twisted and deformed, the eternal lamps were shattered, and there were large pieces of blood from someone unknown, almost splattered everywhere. The life gate leading to the outside world was violently torn apart from the inside by some powerful magic. Ling Yunpo went up to check it out. There were obvious signs of low temperature cracking at the cut fault. Junior brother, Zisu said beside him, be careful when you go out. Yeah. Ling Yunpo nodded. The two left from the damaged life gate. As soon as they arrived in the outside world, they saw that the sky and the earth had changed color. The sky was covered with dark clouds, lightning flashed, and countless dragons appeared and disappeared in the clouds, chanting and roaring. Another huge dragon was wrapping its body around the top of the demon locking tower, pulling it hard to the side. The demon locking tower made a sound as if it was about to collapse. Zisu suddenly grabbed Ling Yunpo's arm, and the sword lights of the two of them suddenly accelerated to avoid the bloody mouth that attacked from below. The two fled frantically in the valley, only to see the dragon chasing them relentlessly, constantly spitting out a large number of ice blades, forcing the two to change direction to avoid. Suddenly, a sword light came out, instantly pierced through the dragon's head, and nailed the other to the rock wall next to it. Greetings, Master Yujing. Ling Yunpo saw who was coming and saluted quickly. Master Yujing, wearing the 7-star Taoist robe, pressed down the sword light from the air and glanced at him lightly. This glance made Ling Yunpo feel as if he was seen through from the inside out, almost exactly like Qiu Chang's Haiyan in front of Master Ziwei. Fortunately, the headmaster of the Shanqing sect of Shushan didn't seem to want to waste time on them. He quickly retracted his gaze and said indifferently, all disciples gather at the golden summit of Immortal Mountain for refuge. You should go there as soon as possible. Understood. Ling Yunpo immediately pulled Zisu away. The two didn't dare to fly too high, so they could only fly close to the ground following the sword light. A team of Jin and Zenran flew over their heads with sword light, murderously. Ling Yunpo narrowed his eyes and saw a large area of magnificent light flashing in the distance, which seemed to be the aftermath of the battle between the Shushan Sword Immortal and the dragon. There is no doubt that the war now happening over Shushan is not something that can be participated in by cultivators at the Jindan level. As for himself and his senior sister, it's better to leave the scene obediently. Zisu tried his best to control the cold sword light, but the speed was obviously much slower than the original frost sword. The sequelae of the destruction of his natal sword became more and more serious. Ling Yunpo had no choice but to keep pace with her, and took her arm, held her palm, put his fingertips on the acupuncture points, and injected his own strong true energy into it. Fortunately, he had stolen 30 years of cultivation in the sea of clouds and space, and now he had the true energy to support his senior sister. Zisu struggled slightly, and seemed a little embarrassed, but in the end she still couldn't break free. Feeling Ling Yunpo's true energy along her arm, slowly injected into the sea of qi below the lower abdomen, she felt some indescribable shame. Considering that she was really weak now, and the situation around her was critical, Zisu simply stopped struggling and let her junior brother run away. The two finally came to the golden summit of Immortal Mountain, and saw that this place had been pulled out of the vast light curtain by the Quanguan ruler, and the entire peak was protected by a colorless light shield. From time to time, various attacks fell, and large ripples were hit on the light shield. Pulling the senior sister to the edge, someone soon noticed that there were two Shushan disciples here, and opened a small hole in the shield of the Quanguan ruler to let the two people in. As soon as he entered the light curtain, Ling Yunpo saw Master Jingwu coming with sword light under his feet, and said angrily, "You two came at the right time. Tell me, where is Su Jian?" Ling Yunpo. He immediately showed a black question mark face. Chapter 128. In my golden summit, Yinglong demonic might. Seeing that Ling Yunpo and Zisu are both confused, Master Jingwu became even more angry and said sternly, "Don't lie. Su Jian colluded with the demons and released the dragon imprisoned in the demon locking tower. He has committed a great crime for the sect. If you don't want to be punished with him, tell the truth." Zisu was very anxious when he heard this. Just as he was about to speak, Ling Yunpo stretched out his hand to stop him. Although the senior sister was worried, Ling Yunpo was such a smart person that he immediately realized that something was wrong. If the chief master really colluded with the demons, wouldn't Shushan have violently arrested him and the senior sister by now? Is it necessary to let Master Jingwu interrogate here? Master Jingwu, and I don't know what you are talking about. He said inexplicably, "If it is true that our master is colluding with the demons, please ask the criminal law hall to come and pick him up. My senior sister and I will tell you everything we know." The implication is that if Master Jingwu asks alone, we will not say anything. Upon hearing this, Master Jingwu became even angrier, pointed his sword with his hand, and said "okay" 3 times. Then, he turned around and left. Seeing that he actually turned around and left, Zisu could not help but see that he was trying to trick them, so she let out a long sigh of relief. In normal times, even if she was facing Master Jindan, she would still argue with him. But now, after all, her natal sword was damaged, her body was weak and exhausted, and her junior brother was beside her, so she subconsciously relied on him. Ling Yunpo didn't say anything, so she just stood by and said nothing. The golden summit of Imade Mountain and the Tianqi Square were already crowded with disciples in the Foundation establishment realm. It was not that the top leaders required the disciples to stay here, but that everyone was worried and refused to stay in the main hall. If Shushan lost, then even if they hid in the main hall, they would not be able to escape the fate of being hunted by the Dragon Clan. If Shushan could win, they would have to stand outside and watch how the seniors slayed the dragon. Zisu and Ling Yunpo entered Tianqi Square and soon attracted the attention of all Shushan disciples. Unlike Master Jingwu, the looks from these disciples were not hostile or fearful. Everyone just cast a few symbolic glances, and then looked into the distance and the sky nervously. On the steps leading to the main hall, Julanfenhai half closed his eyes, as if he was taking a nap. Lin Julanzhen stood at the bottom of the steps, holding his long sword and saying nothing. Yuan Zhenu leaned against the railing, talking with Sima Changyan and Bishan with a smile. Seeing the two return, Lin Julanzhen immediately went up to them and asked, "Where did you go in the demon locking tower before? Why can't I find your figures later?" Zisu and Ling Yunpo smiled awkwardly. After all, it would take a long time to explain the strange item 10,000 miles water vein divine travel talisman. Fortunately, Lin Julanzhen was very tactful. Seeing that the two are not in a position to talk, he did not ask any further questions and just explained. The murder in the demon locking tower was caused by a traitor from the Eastern Empire lurking in the sect, who brought in demons from the outside world who were good at illusions and disguised them as the 7 killings immortals of King Luopika, traitor from the Eastern Empire. Ling Yunpo asked in surprise, "How could there be a traitor from another sect lurking in our Shushan?" "The traitor is a disciple from Qian people," Lin Julanzhen sighed and said. "He entered the sect as a mortal with a clean background and has been lurking for nearly 20 years. If he hadn't been exposed this time, who would have thought of it? This time, a big demon secretly broke into the demon locking tower, attempting to rescue the imprisoned Dragon Clan in the tower. It happened that we were taking the trial in the demon locking tower, so the other party activated this hidden player. The purpose was to create chaos within us and put the blame on the 7 killings immortals, forcing the Jingwu immortals to end the trial early and take people out of the tower. Fortunately, the chief of Kunling Qiu Changtai revealed it in time. Otherwise, if a large number of demons escaped from the demon locking tower and we were completely unprepared, our sect would have suffered a heavy blow this time." Lin Julanzhen praised Qiu Changtai highly, but Zisu remained silent. After all, she had previously suspected that he was the murderer. It turned out that it was the chief Qiu Changtai who helped. Ling Yunpo also breathed a sigh of relief. Thinking carefully, if he had not cheated to let Qiu Changtai come, and suddenly encountered such a thing, wouldn't it be difficult to defend himself? Maybe he would be killed by Master Jingwu with a sword, or if he was lucky enough to survive, he would be destroyed in the subsequent demon attack leaped from the demon locking tower. "What is the current situation?" Zisu asked in a deep voice. When the top leaders got the news, it was actually a little late. Lin Julanzhen replied, "Let the first wave of dragons escape. The Jialongs wanted to destroy the demon locking tower to let more demons escape, and the headmaster has already brought sword immortals to stop them. Hearing this, Ling Yunpo and Zisu knew that when they left the demon-locking tower, the Jialongs had just escaped and the headmaster was leading the team to come. If they had come out later, the area around the demon-locking tower would have turned into a battlefield between high-level sword immortals and the Jialongs. By then, the terrifying aftermath of the battle would have easily crushed the two of them into dust. Ling Yunpo squinted his eyes and looked in the direction of the demon-locking tower. He saw all kinds of brilliant lights, metal clashing, dragon roars, and they had not faded across a long distance, as if they were in his ears. Looking at the Shushan disciples around him, some were nervous, some were anxious, and some were eager to try, wishing to leave the golden summit of Imre Mountain immediately and go out to fight the Jialongs. Zisu was also staring at the direction of the demon-locking tower, but his face was calm, and no one knew what he was thinking. Suddenly, a long dragon roar pierced through the sky and shocked the surroundings. From the dark clouds hanging overhead, a giant suddenly appeared, followed by its neck, upper body, and huge colorful wings. Ling Yunpo was shocked. Wasn't this the dragon that had been perched on the Mountain of Swords and gave him and his senior sister a test? How did it come out too? Before he could think about it, he heard the dragon roar. Chang Mei. Come out. The oath we made in the past is still valid. If you win, you can kill me and imprison me, whatever you want. If I win, let the Shushan Shang King sect completely disappear from this world. Its voice was like thunder, and just by simply speaking, the light curtain of the Chuanguan ruler was shaking and almost broken. The Shushan disciples inside were all shocked. Even Yuanfen Hegai, who was originally careless, stood up as if facing a great enemy. He said to Lin Yulanzhen in shock, "It's the ancient Yinglong." "Lin Yulanzhen, do you know Yinglong?" "Of course I know." Lin Yulanzhen's face was also livid. The so-called 5 transformations of dragons means that there are 5 stages of dragon development. At first, it is a water snake, which is the foundation building realm, the mansion level. If it evolves into a dragon, it will have the strength of the golden elixir realm, the root-seeking stage. There are 3 more stages after that. The last stage is Yinglong, which is rare in a million years, but according to the records in the classics, it has the strength comparable to the Daluo Jingxian. In this locked demon tower, a Daluo Jingxian level demon actually escaped. Chapter 129. Yin Yang Dust, the Immortal takes action. Imre Golden Summit, Tianji Square. All Shushan disciples looked up at the sky, their expressions varied from shock, panic, to despair. Above the sky, in the dark clouds, Yinglong's head poked down from the dark clouds, and the dragon's head alone was almost the same size as Imre Golden Summit. As it spoke, the light curtain of Chuanguan ruler began to tremble, and the Shushan peaks without protection outside actually experienced a series of landslides, with a large number of trees, earth and rocks collapsing and falling. The power of words is so terrifying. At this time, the head of Yuzheng was leading the peak masters of the Yinning realm to fight against the main force of the dragon near the locking demon tower. The rest of the Jin and Zhen realm were scattered in the surrounding peaks, hunting the scattered dragons that had escaped. If Yinglong in the clouds really launched an attack on Imre Golden Summit, there would not even be a high-level sword fairy who could contain the opponent. Of course, Yinglong would not deliberately make things difficult for these low-end monks. It just lowered its head and stared at Mount Imre. There was only cold majesty in its golden vertical pupils, without the slightest emotion. Suddenly, it seemed to notice Lin Yunpo in the crowd, and a complex and inexplicable look seemed to flash in its pupils. Then, Yinglong opened its mouth wide, and 5-colored light condensed in its throat, like a war-star destroyer in a science fiction blockbuster. Time seemed to stand still in an instant. Ling Yunpo looked at the sky and saw that Yinglong still maintained the posture of opening his mouth to store energy, but countless strange lines had flashed in the air. These lines formed a dense net that just covered Yinglong's huge body completely. The next second, the lines all over the sky suddenly disappeared. At the same time, the 5-colored light in Yinglong's throat dissipated, as if it was tightened and locked in its neck. A moment later, a large amount of blood suddenly spurted out of its body, and the narrow wound was exactly the same as the distribution position of the previous lines. Ling Yunpo stared at such a wonderful sight in a daze, only to hear Lin Yulanzhen next to him sighing in a tone of fanaticism, longing and admiration. "This is the Yin-Yang Microdust Array." "Yin-Yang Microdust Array?" Ling Yunpo was also surprised. Is it the super-large sword array that requires the help of the 11th level Immortal Sword, the Yin-Yang Microdust Sword to activate? To be precise, it is not the Yin-Yang Microdust Array that requires the help of the Yin-Yang Microdust Sword to activate. Jonathan Haggai also spoke rarely, his eyes staring at the sky dimly, but the yin-yang microdust sword, which was cast from the beginning to preside over the yin-yang microdust array. Yes. Lin Yuanzhou did. In the ancient battle between Nin and Jie, the Jie sect used the 4 swords of killing and trapping to form the sword formation of the immortal, and I don't know how many sword immortals of the sect were killed. Later, the sect developed the yin-yang microdust array, which was created by imitating the Jie sect sword formation, with the yin-yang microdust sword as the center of the formation, which can stimulate the powerful power of acquired yin and yang to counteract, and turn everything trapped in the formation into dust. While the two were explaining, Yinglong, covered in blood, had already escaped into the clouds. He was still moving freely and without any signs of serious injury. The lines in the sky appeared again, and this time the density was twice as high as last time, as if there was an endless stream of sword energy, cutting straight into the clouds. A moment later, a heavy dragon roar came from the clouds. The outcome of the battle in the clouds was unknown, but the Shushan disciples on the golden summit of Imre Mountain saw that the lines were increasing. Not only were they densely distributed above the golden summit, but they were also rapidly spreading in all directions, as if someone was writing in the air. They split into 2, 2 into 4, and multiplied at a geometric rate. They crossed the mountains, swept across the valleys, and swept across the Shushan sword immortals and dragons who were fighting. They seemed to pass through the bodies of the sword immortals as if they were nothingness, and like a physical sword energy, they cut into the white scales and flesh of the dragons, instantly dismembering and killing them. It seemed like more than a quarter of an hour had passed, or it seemed like a snap of a finger. When the Shushan disciples on the golden summit of Mount Imre looked out again, there was no dragon between heaven and earth. Even the dark clouds in the sky were cut into pieces by dense lines, causing the golden skylight to scatter. A majestic white sword light shot out from the depths of the demon-locking tower, penetrated into the cloud layer where Yinglong was before, and then escaped into the demon-locking tower again. So it's true. Jonathan Haggai was silent for a while, and said in a low voice, "What's true?" Ling Yunpo asked curiously. "He controls the yin-yang microdust sword and spreads the yin-yang microdust array to the entire Shushan area. What rank do you think this senior is?" Lin Yuanzhen said with a chuckle. Ling Yunpo was silent for a moment after hearing this, and then he heard Nzisu say beside him, "Immortal. Our Shushan Shanking sect, we should also include Kunlun and Penglai. There is an ancient Qinzhao immortal of the Daluo golden immortal level behind us. From today on, it can be said that this has been proven." Lin Yuanzhen said with emotion, "In fact, it is reasonable to think about it. After all, we are the heirs of the ancient Qinzhao tradition." "You are putting cause and effect." Yuan Zhenyu walked up the stairs and said indifferently, "It is not because the 3 pure ones inherited the Qinzhao tradition that there is an ancient Qinzhao immortal in charge. It is because when the Qinzhao was in decline, the only 3 remaining ancient Qinzhao immortals chose Kunlun, Shushan and Penglai respectively. These 3 sects finally survived and became the heirs of the ancient Qinzhao tradition." Everyone was speechless. The ancient secrets that Yuan Zhenyu said were not explicitly recorded in the Orthodox religion. They were only circulated among the top Immortal Cultivation families. No one had ever heard of them before, but it made sense when you think about it carefully. After the fall of the ancient Qianzhao, it just happened to be divided into 3 forces: Kunlun, Shushan, and Penglai. Of course it was impossible. After all, Jiuzhao could be unified into 5 according to different paths. If Qianzhao really wanted to be subdivided according to the school route, there would be more and more corresponding forces. The reason why only the Sanqing sect survived to this day was naturally because the other Qianzhao sects were later integrated and unified by the Sanqing Orthodox religion. This immortal in Shushan is called Long Eyebrows. Yuan Zhenyu continued to talk, of course, knowing this is meaningless. After all, he is too far from our current rank. In Shushan, apart from the head of Yujing, probably only the sword masters of the various peaks have the opportunity to meet him. Anyway, this is a good thing. Seeing everyone's complicated and strange expressions, Ling Yunpo concluded, with the immortal personally taking action to eliminate this storm invisibly, we don't have to worry about it. Everyone heard this and praised it. Poon Sword Immortal's words made sense. So it's the Long Eyebrow Immortal. Kunlun Mirror said faintly in the sea of consciousness, and the tone seemed extremely complicated. What's wrong? Ling Yunpo joked, could this Long Eyebrow Immortal be your old acquaintance? That's not the case. When I fell into the mortal world, he was probably not born yet. Kunlun Mirror sighed and said, I mean, when he came out of the demon-locking tower with the lead arming microdust sword, I sensed that the position of the fragment of the heaven-repairing stone also moved. Ling Yunpo. The fragment of the heaven-repairing stone of the Shanking sect of Shushan is in the hands of the immortal Chanmei who is in charge of the sect. He asked in disbelief. Now it seems that it should be. Kunlun Mirror said bigly. Well, Jing. Ling Yunpo was silent for a moment, and said, do you think we can modify our plan a little bit? How to modify it? Instead of trying to obtain the heaven-repairing stone from the immortal, I might as well go to the immortal Chanmei now and report you. Ling Yunpo said seriously, then let the Shushan ancestor be your savior to repair the sky, how about it? Although I can hear that you're joking, I still want to say something. Kunlun Mirror said angrily, you were a beast, not a human. Thank you for the compliment. Chapter 130. The dust has settled, and we return to the Taoist temple, the center of the bottom floor of the demon-locking tower. In the extremely wide hall, there stood huge sword handles, roughly counting about 28 of them. The sword handles extended upward to the top of the tower, acting as support pillars. It was because of these sword handles that the dragon failed to escape and tried to entangle the demon-locking tower to break it apart. The longer sword blade pierced downward into the center of the earth. To be precise, they pierced into the fire element cave, charging the demon-locking tower with infinite fire elements. Gang. An old man sat in the center of the hall surrounded by sword handles, suspended in the air, closing his eyes to rest. The old man had a white robe, white hair, white eyebrows, and a white beard, and his eyebrows grew together in the middle, which was very impressive. A short sword was placed on his knees, 3 feet and 4 inches long, clear and bright. This person was the long eyebrow immortal of the Shanking school of Shushan, and the short sword was the famous Li Arming microdust sword. The head of Yuzheng walked quickly, and his robes rustled with his movements. He came in front of the long-browed immortal, pinched the sword finger with his left hand, bowed his head, and then said concisely, the demon disaster has been quelled. There are a total of 360 Jialongs, 127 Chilongs, and 35 Gulongs that have escaped from the tower. Except for those killed by the Li Arming microdust sword, all have been tied up and taken back to the tower. The head of Yuzheng did not mention the matter of Yinglong, but changed the subject and continued. This disaster was caused by the collusion between a spy within the sect and a big demon outside the sect. The spy within the sect was planted by the Dong Huangdo, and he joined the sect under the Qian Peak 127 years ago. He described himself as a native of Yongzhou, with no father or mother. Combining the deacon's records and the feedback from the Qian Peak, the spy was indeed immortal at the beginning. The long-browed immortal remained motionless, having already anticipated this result. The so-called spies are most afraid of this kind of white body, who has never practiced any other sects. Except for the thoughts in his brain, he is no different from ordinary disciples. If the other party's methods are more sophisticated, it is almost impossible to distinguish. But this kind of spy also has a characteristic, that is, the incubation period is particularly long. It takes at least 200 years for a mortal to practice to the Golden Core realm, and the Foundation Establishment realm can basically play no role. The reason why that disaster occurred this time was not mainly due to the problem of spies, but the problem of external monsters. The external monster, after investigation, should be the Moon Fantasy Sky Fox of the Kinkia clan. The head of Yuzheng continued, the deacon of the Locking Demon Tower has found that one person is missing. It should be attacked by the Moon Fantasy Sky Fox when he was on an official business, and then the other party replaced his identity and sneaked into the tower. The Moon Fantasy Sky Fox is at least in the Nascent Soul realm, and is also proficient in illusion. The deacon of the Locking Demon Tower is only at the level of a real person, so it is common sense that he cannot beat it. However, the day when the other party sneaked in was when the trial of the Demon Locking Tower was about to start. The head of Yuzheng sneered, after entering the Demon Locking Tower, the other party discovered this and was caught off guard. They could only use their own hidden agents to create internal strife in the trial team and force the team to end the trial early. The disciples who were killed during the trial were all killed by the Moon Fantasy Fox. With the help of the information provided by the spies, they disguised themselves as the 7 Killings real person to interfere with the audio and video and incite panic. This has been confirmed. After the incident, the Jindan team and the Foundation building team were forced to suspend the trial and evacuate the Demon Locking Tower, the Moon Fantasy Fox. The long-browed immortal suddenly spoke and interrupted him. What is the purpose of sneaking into the tower with such deliberate planning? The head of Yuzheng smiled bigly. If the other party was trying to help Yinglong escape, it would be nonsense. After Yinglong escaped, he did not flee Shushan immediately, but ran to the sky above the golden summit of Imre Mountain to confront the Yin-Yang microdust formation. Obviously, he had no intention of escaping. The immortal Chanmele presided over the Yin-Yang microdust formation, but initially chose not to activate it, intending to confirm who the big monster that had sneaked into the demon locking tower was. However, Yinglong pretended to blow his breath to bombard the golden summit of Imre Mountain, so the immortal Chanmele had to activate the Yin-Yang microdust formation in advance, seriously injuring Yinglong. The Moon Fantasy Sky Fox probably took this opportunity to escape. In this way, why the other party sneaked into the demon locking tower has become an unverifiable mystery. I dare to guess that there are probably two possibilities. The head of Yuzhong thought for a long time and said, first, it is to convey some kind of message to Yinglong. Second, it is to get some kind of message from Yinglong. The immortal Chanmele also pondered. Obviously, the Moon Fantasy Sky Fox came empty-handed and left empty-handed, without taking any monsters with it, so it can only be some kind of invisible thing. For example, a secret that only Yinglong knows, or something. Let's stop here for now. The long-browed immortal said, it's not appropriate to investigate in a big way within the sect, but you can choose someone you trust and keep an eye on him. During this battle, the outside sect will pay more attention to our Shushan situation, and other spies within the sect will also be active in collecting intelligence. It's a good time to kill a wave to set an example. Understood. The head of Yuzhong was hesitant, but there is one more thing. If this matter is not explained to the sect, many disciples will think that it is really the work of the King Luo Peak sect. The long-browed immortal answered directly. It doesn't matter, let them go. The head of Yuzhong sighed in his heart. The immortal still couldn't let go of the 7 killings immortal. After all, he was the most respected disciple in the past, but forcing him like this might not have the expected effect. The head of Yuzhong knew Su Jian's stubborn temper very well. If Anzisu was really harmed one day because of this, and Su Jian wanted to avenge his daughter after coming out of retreat, how could he not see that there was a factor of deliberate connivance by the immortal? By then, he would rather betray the sect than return to the path of the forgetful flow. Unfortunately, the struggle for the orthodoxy is the most ruthless. As long as Su Jian chooses to return to the forgetful flow, everything will come to fruition, and the King Luo Peak lineage will be safe. But if Su Jian still insists on practicing the questioning flow, he is a heretic and deserves to die. The immortal probably thinks so. It's just a pity that Anzisu and Ling Yunpo are outstanding among the disciples in the Foundation establishment realm, but their importance in the eyes of the immortal is probably not even 1/10,000th of Su Jian. Let's put aside the affairs of the Shushan high-level officials for the time being. After the incident of the locking demon tower was settled, Ling Yunpo followed Anzisu back to King Luo Peak and came to the secret room in the mountain. Ling Yunpo took out the golden mercury elixir and began to refine it. In this world of immortal cultivation, although there are rare objects and methods that can improve the grade of elixir, they are not limited to one or two. Among them, the golden mercury Dahua liquid is the first tier, saving a decade of hard work, but unfortunately, you can only drink one spoonful at most. Yunhe Bai Kongjun is the second tier, fast forward half a decade of hard work, of course, it can only be used once. It takes 200 years to transform the palace into a third-grade elixir, so you get 90 years of power. For the remaining 110 years, Ling Yunpo does not plan to use his lifespan to fill it, but to go to Kunlun and Penglai to look for it. He does not believe that Tai King sect and Yu King temple, which are also the 3 pure ones of the Orthodox religion, will not have a mysterious method to accelerate the process of transformation. Ling Yunpo was refining the golden mercury Dahua liquid over there, and Anzisu was kneeling on the futon here, praying to his master Su Jian about this trip. Master, please allow me to report. This trip to the demon locking tower was full of twists and turns. Fortunately, I finally brought my junior brother back intact. The frost sword was damaged, but I don't feel sorry. Saving my junior brother is more important than anything else. Although I lost my natal sword, fortunately, with the help of the golden mercury dam liquid and the cloud sea sky realm, I am sure that the elixir will be a third-grade elixir, and I will not embarrass Master. I hope Master will come out of retreat as soon as possible. I bow my head here. After saying this silently in his heart, Anzisu gently leaned down and put his forehead on the ground. However, tears flashed faintly in the corners of his eyes. Chapter 131. Finding the sword again, Senior Sister's transformation. After returning from the locking demon tower, almost another 5 or 6 days had passed. Ling Yunpo had already accepted the ironclad fact that the fragments of the heaven repairing stone on the Shu mountainside were in the possession of the immortal Changmei, and he was determined to take a long-term view and work it out slowly. Work it out slowly means to at least survive until the nascent soul stage. The reason for this choice was also due to the extremely helpless reality. First of all, he needed the mirage of Kunlun Mirror to maintain his peerless talent for cultivation. Secondly, once the immortal Changmei knew about the matter of repairing the sky, then as a source of intelligence, the existence of Kunlun Mirror would also be exposed. Based on these 2 points, a conclusion can be drawn. The matter of repairing the sky must not be known to the immortal Changmei. Otherwise, in the best case, the immortal Changmei was willing to take over the responsibility of repairing the sky, and then took away the Kunlun Mirror, and he would become mediocre from then on. In the worst case, the immortal Changmei did not believe that the world was about to perish, and then took away the Kunlun Mirror, and he would become mediocre from then on. No matter which situation it was, he would lose Arjun, and there was no other possibility. Ling Yunpo asked himself if he still had deep feelings for Arjun. Although Arjun was naive, simple, stupid, pedantic, and stubborn, and did not know what adapting to circumstances and not being particular meant, at least he would not impose his values on himself. As we all know, those who are too kind are saints, and those who demand others to be too kind are sent bitches. As long as Arjun did not suddenly become a bitch, Ling Yunpo was still willing to regard him as a close friend and protect him from being coveted by the immortals. After all, you just don't want to lose your talent for cultivation. Kunlun Jing said suddenly, "It's not that you can't bear to leave me." "Arjun, why do you say that?" Ling Yunpo said with great sorrow, "You and I have the same ideals, the same aspirations, and the same goals. It's not too much for me to call you comrade. How can you doubt our revolutionary friendship that is as strong as gold? I don't remember that we had any common goals." Kunlun Jing sighed and said, "My goal is to repair the sky and prevent the destruction of the world, while someone's goal is to ascend to the throne of the sky. Our paths are just temporarily overlapped because of the exchange of interests, right?" "Of course not." Ling Yunpo said righteously, "The man of destiny cannot have only one goal, and ascending to the broken throne of the sky is not what I want. If Arjun, you are willing to help me on my way to the sky, I will leave you an intact and pure world, so what's the harm?" Kunlun Jing. "Puchi." King Ping Sword suddenly laughed. "What are you laughing at?" Kunlun Jing said angrily. "I'm not laughing. I'm just thinking about what to do with his senior sister's natal sword." King Ping Sword changed the subject. When this matter was mentioned, Ling Yunpo was indeed frowning. It's not difficult to say whether it's easy or not to say whether it's easy. If Chief Kyo invests time, he will definitely be able to get it, but the quality is hard to say. After all, among the 10th level immortal swords, the gap between the upper and lower limits can be very large. Among the 10th level immortal swords, the Frost Sword is also a good grade. It not only helped Senior Sister and get the title of Grass-Cutting Sword Immortal, but also withstood the magic of hundreds of Jinn and Realm Dragons before breaking. If you want to find an immortal sword of similar grade, the element of luck is too big, and it is beyond human power. Let's ask Senior Sister first. Ling Yunpo sighed. There are many factors that make up the strength of an immortal sword, including its own quality, 5 elements attributes, sword Taoism, etc. It is unrealistic to force perfection, and priorities must be listed. For example, Senior Sister said that she hoped for a water-based flying sword, or that the sword's speed was fast, or that the Taoist magic was powerful, etc. What was the first requirement, and what was the second requirement, so that the subsequent sword search could be targeted? So Ling Yunpo left the Taoist temple and went to the Linksa pavilion behind to find Senior Sister. When Nzisu was alone, she would only do 2 things: practice sword and drink. To practice sword, she would visualize the enemies she had fought before, then think about how to break the moves, and finally practice them to perfection. To drink, she would sit in a small pavilion and drink by herself. However, Senior Sister was not good at drinking, and she had to refine her true essence every time she drank a glass, otherwise she would get drunk easily. However, when Ling Yunpo found Senior Sister, he found that Nzisu was not practicing sword or drinking at this time, but was practicing the Sunflower Manual. No, she was doing needlework with an embroidery needle. "What are you embroidering, Senior Sister?" Ling Yunpo walked up to her, looked at the fat duck in her hand, and asked in confusion, "Duck?" "This is a mandarin duck," Nzisu said calmly. "Oh, I made a mistake," Ling Yunpo said with a smile. "The mandarin ducks embroidered by Senior Sister are so vivid and lifelike. Junior brother, don't laugh at me." Zisu felt a little embarrassed, so she put down her needlework and sighed, "It's really too big." "Why are you suddenly interested in needlework?" Ling Yunpo asked with a smile. "I have nothing to do," Zisu whispered. Ling Yunpo immediately cried out inwardly, why did he bring up something irrelevant? Because senior sister Am's natal sword was damaged, she had not made any progress in her cultivation for at least half a year, so she had no intention of practicing swordsmanship and found a hobby to relieve her worries and boredom. Why did he poke her in the sore spot? Knowing that he had said something wrong, Ling Yunpo quickly changed the subject and asked, "By the way, senior sister, if you were to find a fairy sword, what kind would you want?" Zisu was slightly surprised, but soon calmed down and said, "If I could choose, I would like a fire-type flying sword." "Fire-type flying sword?" Ling Yunpo asked in surprise. You should know that the 5 types of flying swords have different characteristics and styles. Generally speaking, the gold-type flying sword is swift and sharp, good at sudden attacks and annihilation of the enemy. The wood-type flying sword is tough and tenacious, good at entanglement and containment. The water-type flying sword is agile and flexible, good at wandering and changing moves. The fire-type flying sword is fierce and domineering, good at strong attacks and defeating the enemy. The earth-type flying sword is majestic and heavy, good at frontal suppression. If the water-type flying sword is the swordsman of the agility flow, then the fire-type flying sword is the military general of the strength flow. The styles of the two are quite different. If you want to transform, it is more appropriate to choose the gold or wood-type transition. As if she could see what Ling Yunpo was thinking, Zisu explained. The frost sword was the flying sword that Master prepared for me, but I didn't choose it myself. Although frost sword has helped me a lot over the years, it has also hindered my improvement in swordsmanship in some ways. For example, when I encounter a strong enemy, I will subconsciously choose to avoid its edge instead of confronting it head-on. If I switch to a fire-type flying sword, I can also change my style and make further progress in swordsmanship. Ling Yunpo was dumbfounded. Good man, I thought Senior Sisterin was already strong enough, but I didn't expect that Senior Sisterin thought she was not strong enough and wanted to change her natal sword to a fire-type one. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Mundo Fanfic Novelers, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelers. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 132 Returning to Cunning, Junior Sister is considerate. In fact, after thinking about it carefully, Ling Yunpo felt that the most suitable flying sword for Senior Sisterin was indeed the gold or fire flying sword. The gold flying sword was for surprise attack and assassination, while the fire flying sword was for violent attack, which could best bring out the advantages of Senior Sister Am's combat experience and killing instinct. Since Senior Sisterin chose the fire flying sword, Ling Yunpo must of course respect her opinion. If you want a fire flying sword, I have a recommendation. Qin Ping Jian suddenly said, Master Sword Master, have you heard of the Feian sword? Feian sword? Ling Yunpo pondered. This sword was held by the ancient Jiri Zhao Great Power. It was originally a pair of swords, but later one was destroyed in the Battle of Chanji, leaving only the other. Qin Ping Jian laughed. This sword cuts people fast and fiercely. There is no sword light when it passes through the air, only a faint wisp of light smoke, hence the name. It sounds good. Ling Yunpo nodded and said, where is this sword now? If I remember correctly, it should be in the South China Sea. Qin Ping Jian said. South China Sea, Ling Yunpo secretly memorized it. However, now was not the time to look for the sword, because Qiu Changtian had just helped him resolve a fatal disaster. So in order to form a closed loop of history, he had to turn to play Qiu Changtian and help his past self resolve the fatal disaster. As for how to resolve it, the future Qiu Changtian did not tell him, so that he would not have to repeat it again in the future, but directly let the future Kunlun Mirror record the mission strategy and then forwarded it to his own Kunlun Mirror. Therefore, Ling Yunpo told the Kunlun Mirror, Jin, read the file. The Kunlun Mirror prompted. Point 1. Kunlun Tai King Sect, Jin Line. Character Identity. Qiu Changtian. Mirror Flower Water Moon template overwritten, in the process of time and space shuttle. As the world spun, he had returned to Kunlun Jinlang and turned into Qiu Changtian. The experience in the demon locking tower was too bizarre and occupied most of his mind and energy. Therefore, after returning to his identity as Qiu Changtian, he first sat quietly in the Jinlang cave mansion and sorted out the experience of the Kunlun line. The current plot progress of this line is that he and junior sisters Yu accidentally discovered the secret realm of the Queen Mother of the West, and told the head of Ziwi after escaping. Recently, Kunlun Tai King sect should be working on developing this secret realm. In addition, Zhu Yingyan obtained 1/3 of a spoonful of Mercury Danwa from the secret realm, which is almost equivalent to 20 years of hard practice at the Wafu level. But she is still at the Shishyi level, so she can't take it for the time being. However, the last time Master took us into the secret realm of the Queen Mother of the West for the second time, he got the King Jing Yuan Ki pill, so junior sisters you should be refining the medicinal power. Unfortunately, I haven't finished eating the King Jing Yuan Ki pill yet. Not only have I finished washing my marrow in advance, but I have also obtained 90 years of power at the Wafu level, leaving junior sister far behind. TSK, this matter must be kept secret for the time being, otherwise if Zhu Yingyan knew about it, she would be so angry that she would die on the spot. Qiu Changtai made up his mind to avoid seeing junior sisters Yu before going to the demon locking tower. But he didn't know that Kunlun Mirror was secretly complaining. If you didn't use her to brush the synchronization value all day, would she have such a strong obsession with you? It is also very simple to avoid harming her. I just need to secretly remove the mirror flowers and water moons, and no matter how you pretend to be, it will be useless to make her angry. Back to the point, Qiu Changtai has been practicing in the cave these days, except for preaching, and he has been staying indoors, which made his junior brothers and sisters realize that something is wrong. So the two junior brothers Changqin and Thongti and Hua became curious again and went to visit the second senior sisters Yu Yingyan to ask about her eldest brother. How should I know about senior brother Qiu? Zhu Yingyan had just finished refining the medicinal power of the pure Yuan Qi pill and was in a good mood, so she said, if you want to know, just ask him directly, don't worry too much. How can I not worry about this? Chenzhin was also a straightforward person, and said directly, senior sister, you and senior brother have explored the secret realm together before, and the news has spread in the faction. What if the eldest brother is digesting the results of the adventure, but we disturb him and get angry? You are not afraid of disturbing him, but you dare to disturb me, what's the reason? Zhu Yingyan was angry and amused. Well, if we compare you and senior brother, we must respect you and fear him. Thongti and Hua immediately flattered him. Humph. Zhu Yingyan did not comment. With her exquisite mind, how could you be fooled by the flattery of these two people? It was just because Qiu Changtai was in charge of the lecture, and these two people were timid and didn't dare to ask more, so they asked me to inquire. But speaking of it, senior brother has not been seen much recently, and even the frequency of playing the piano with me has decreased a lot. Thinking of this, Zhu Yingyan also became a little thoughtful and planned to visit Qiu Changtai. Is senior brother here? When he arrived at the entrance of Qiu Changtai's cave, Zhu Yingyan asked in a clear voice. After waiting for a long while, Qiu Changtai slowly emerged from inside and said with a stern face, Junior sister, what do you want to talk to me about? Zhu Yingyan subconsciously wanted to ask back, can't you come to see me if you have nothing to do? But after thinking carefully, it was indeed too frivolous, so she explained. Junior brothers and sisters noticed that you have been staying indoors for the past few days, so they asked me to ask about your situation. Qiu Changtai's expression eased, nodded and said, you are thoughtful, but I'm fine, I'm just refining the medicinal power of the pure Yuan Qi pill. You should know this. Of course. Zhu Yingyan nodded and asked, then how is my cultivation going? It has helped a lot. I think it will be soon for the marrow cleansing to be completed. Qiu Changtai planned to give her a shot of prevention, lest she finds that her cultivation has increased dramatically later and she will not be able to accept it. Really? Zhu Yingyan didn't doubt it. After all, she had been shocked by the stock senior brother too many times, which made her develop the ability to remain calm in the face of emergencies. Even if Qiu Changtai said one day that he was about to form a pill, she probably wouldn't be too surprised. Then I wish senior brother to achieve the Great Do as soon as possible. The so-called achievement of the Great Do means to be in harmony with the Great Do and to make rapid progress in one's skills. Qiu Changtai smiled slightly, not wanting to continue talking about his own progress in cultivation, and just changed the subject and asked, how is your practice going? If you have any questions about marrow cleansing and meridian cutting, you can always ask me for advice. Well, no, we discuss with each other and improve each other. Zhu Yingyan heard him change his words and sneered. Thank you for your concern, senior brother, but I don't have the peerless talent of Loksin Tongmin like senior brother. Even if I want to compare the efficiency and speed of marrow cleansing, I think it will be difficult to catch up with senior brother. Qiu Changtian was secretly surprised, and thought that this junior sister suddenly stopped competing for victory, only to hear Zhu Yingluyan's tone change, and then said, "However, in terms of the grade of Jindan, the most critical thing is the transformation palace rather than marrow cleansing. To form a third-grade golden elixir, the purple palace must be perfected for more than 200 years, but the lifespan of mortals is not that long. Senior brother should think about what to do after reaching the transformation palace level." Qiu Changtian heard her implication and smiled. "I told you last time that getting the gold mercury Dahua liquid in the secret realm is your chance, and I won't compete with you." Zhu Yingluyan was annoyed and cursed his senior brother for being ungrateful. He turned his head away angrily and said through gritted teeth, "Brother, it's better not to have it. When I take the gold mercury Dahua liquid, my power will increase greatly and surpass yours. It will be too late for you to regret it." Chapter 133 Arriving at Shushan. Before the trial, there are still a few days before the demon locking tower is opened. At noon that day, Qiu Changtian was called to the lecture room of Yaxu Palace, and saw Ziwei sect leader talking to a sword immortal. The sword immortal looked to be in his 30s, and was none other than Jin Wuzhenren of Shushan. "Is this my nephew Qiu Changtian?" Zhenren Jin said with a smile, which was completely different from the cold face he had before when facing the disciples of Shushan. "Sure enough, he is a handsome man, a seed of seeking the truth." "What seed of seeking the truth?" "He is far from it." Although Ziwei sect leader had a stern face and said something like "my inferior disciple is not good enough," Qiu Changtian knew that he was actually very happy at this time. After another round of business flattery, Ziwei sect leader pointed at Qiu Changtian and said to him, "This trip to Shushan, I will entrust my inferior disciple to you." He turned to Qiu Changtian and said, "This is Jin Wuzhenren of Shushan, the grandson of my secular family. If there is anything in the demon locking tower, just discuss it with him." Qiu Changtian was shocked when he heard it. He keenly noticed that the wording used by Ziwei sect leader was not listen to his orders, but discuss with him. There is a big difference between the two. The former is to follow the orders of Jin Wuzhenren, while the latter has a certain degree of autonomy. I'm a Kunlun disciple, and I am allowed to move freely when I run to the territory of Shushan. Thinking about it carefully, it is normal. The locking demon tower is not a good place after all. The Shushan disciples who participate in the trial obey Jin Wuzhenren's control, which means that he is responsible for the life and death of everyone. As the chief of cunning, if Qiu Changtian has any problems, how will Jin Wuzhenren be responsible? Can he afford it? Therefore, Jin Wuzhenren must not be willing to be Qiu Changtian's nanny, at most he can only be a guide. Thinking of this way, it makes sense that the future Qiu Changtian ran away immediately after entering the locking demon tower. Who would have thought that Jin Wuzhenren treated the Shushan people coldly throughout the whole process, but in fact he was protecting them. He greeted Qiu Changtian with a smile, but in fact he didn't care at all. Qiu Changtian thought about it carefully, and then he saluted with Jin Wuzhenren. Jin Wuzhenren repeatedly said that it was not necessary, and asked Qiu Changtian to quickly get rid of the ceremony. Ziwei sect leader gave him a few instructions at the end, and then asked Jin Wuzhenren to take him to Shushan. When they arrived outside Yaxu Palace, Jin Wuzhenren took out a wine gourd and motioned Qiu Changtian to follow him on it. Immortal swords are used for short-distance flights, and magic tools are used for long-distance flights. Even the Shanking sect of Shushan, which is famous for its sword immortals, does not like to step on flying swords and face the wind for several hours. The wine gourd is engraved with a formation, which can prevent wind, keep warm, and reduce shock. The journey is very comfortable, and they soon arrived at Shushan. Landing at the Tianqi Square of Imei Golden Summit, Jin Wuzhenren took Qiu Changtian into the main hall of Shushan to visit Yuxing sect leader. The main hall of the sect at the top of Kunlun Tianzu is called Yaxu Palace. The main hall of the sect at the Imei Golden Summit of Shushan is called Ancestor Hall. After entering the hall, there are 2 rows of sword tablets embedded in the walls on the left and right. The life stories of the people engraved on each sword tablet are all sword immortals who have made great contributions to the Shushan Shanking sect since its establishment. Qiu Changtian glanced at it casually and saw the sword tablet of the 7 killings immortal Su Jian. It was densely packed with the glorious resume of his chief master. How many demon cultivators of Shurado he killed today, how many demon cultivators of Donghuangdo he slaughtered tomorrow, and how many side sects he destroyed the day after tomorrow, various exaggerated numbers stacked together, even making Qiu Changtian wonder why hasn't the demon sect been extinct yet. However, he was Qiu Chang's Han instead of Lin Yunpo at this time, so it was not easy to stop and take a closer look. He just glanced at it roughly and continued to move forward with Jinghui Immortal. After passing through the Sword Tablet Pavilion, it was the Incense Hall, where the statue of the ancestor was enshrined, which was the Shanqing realm Yu Tianling Bao Tianzun, which was the legal proof that the Shushan Shanqing sect inherited the ancient Changzhou town. After passing the Incense Hall, Qiu Chang's Han met the headmaster of Shushan, Yu Jing. This man dressed like a thin middle-aged Taoist priest, with a long beard and wearing a 7-star Taoist robe, had a dignified expression and was serious. He spoke to Qiu Chang's Han patiently. Qiu Chang's Han responded respectfully with the etiquette of a junior. The two of them said nothing but polite words. "I have come from afar on one side and thank you for your reception on the other side," which was very polite. After the greetings, the headmaster of Yujing waved his hand to call a disciple and asked her to take Qiu Dazing out for a walk. Qiu Chang's Han took a closer look and saw that it was Bishan, the 6th on the Immortal Sword list. As mentioned before, on the Immortal Sword list of Shushan Foundation establishment disciples, there was a grass-cutting sword fairy who occupied the top spot and was called the Woman Who Cannot Be Mentioned. There were also the 4 strong men of Broken Mountains and Divided Seas, Shattered Moons and Broken Clouds, occupying the 2nd to 5th places. They were the strong men that Shushan disciples talked about with relish and admired. After these 5 people, there are Sima Changyan and Bishan. Their strength is not as good as the top 4, but they are the most outstanding among the top 20, so they are called strong candidates. Although Ling Yunpo is not familiar with the two, he heard Lin Yulanzhen talk about them in detail before the Shushan competition, and they are also met during the competition, so he probably has some impression. Sima Changyan looks to be in his 30s, with a short beard and a serious expression. Bishan is a girl in her 20s, with long hair and a ponytail, and she looks cold and cool. It is said that these two have decided to practice the Qingliu tradition and pursue the ultimate swordsmanship as their lifelong goal. Therefore, Qiu Chang's Han did not think about chatting with Bishan, but just bowed. Bishan spoke straightforwardly, and got straight to the point. "Fellow Taoist Qiu has come from afar. If you want to rest, I will take you to the guest room. If you're interested, I will take you to visit Shushan." Qiu Chang's Han smiled and said, "Then please let the way." To be honest, he was very familiar with the terrain around Shushan, especially the Qingluo Peak. He had seen it countless times every day with his sword. But that was Ling Yunpo's memory, and Qiu Chang's Han was in Shushan for the first time. In order not to reveal his true identity, he could only pretend that he had never been here before and was full of curiosity about the scenery of Shushan. Bishan was not surprised by Qiu Chang's Han's answer. After all, the headmaster said let me take him around, so he turned around and said, "Fellow Taoist Qiu, please follow me." The two left the ancestral hall and flew away on the Tianji Square with sword lights. They only heard Bishan saying in front of them, "Although our Shushan sphere of influence is not as long as your Kunlun Mountains, which stretches for more than 2,000 miles, it also covers a vast area, from Mikan Mountain in the north to Dalu Mountain in the south, covering an area of nearly 1,000 miles. The peaks in Shushan are often named after colors, such as Qian Peak, Quizhou Peak, Ziyun Peak, etc. The only exception is Mount Imaya, which is the location of our Shushan ancestral hall and has been inhabited by the headmaster for generations." The headmaster lineage, Qiu Chang's Han seemed to be thinking. I heard from Lin Yulanzhen and Yuan Zhenu before that the headmaster of the Shushan Shanqing sect seemed to have the highest status in Yujing, but in fact there was a long-browed immortal above him. According to the description of Kunlun Mirror, the heaven-repairing stone was carried by the immortal Changmei, who lived deep in the demon-locking tower under Lidanping, and Lidanping was located within the Emade Mountain. In other words, the immortal Changmei must be very close to the headmaster who lived in Emade Mountain. It is even reasonable to speculate that the appointment of the headmaster of each generation may have to be approved by the immortal Changmei. In the world of immortal cultivation, the lifespan of immortals is almost the same as the sky. The immortal Changmei has been in Shushan for at least 10,000 years. Even if we ignore his terrifying strength like the abyss, his implicit control over the entire sect has probably reached the extreme. No matter whether I wait for an opportunity to seize it openly or plot to take the fragments of the heaven-repairing stone secretly, it seems that there is no possibility of success. It feels better to go out directly with the mirror. Chapter 134. The traitors meet, and there is a spy among spies. Qiu Chang's Han stayed in the guest room of the Taoist temple in Mount Imei for a few days. Every morning, Bishan would come to visit and ask if this Kunlun visitor needed anything, such as spiritual stones, spiritual fruits, etc. Qiu Chang's time declined every time. After embarking on the path of cultivation, the cultivator's demand for the outside world has been extremely low. No need for water, there is a natural fasting. No need for excretion, there is a natural detoxification. No need to breathe, there is a natural tortoise breath. In short, just sitting and breathing, time passed quickly. On the day when the demon-locking tower was opened, Qiu Chang's time changed into a moon-white Taoist robe and took a jade-long flute, ready to act according to the strategy recorded in the Kunlun mirror. Seeing that Li Dongping was just ahead, he took out the long flute and played it. The sound of the flute arrived before the person, and a man in a white robe appeared gracefully. After playing the last note, Qiu Chang's time just stepped off the sword light and landed on the ground, arriving at the demon-locking tower in full view of everyone. Listening carefully to the inside of the sea of consciousness, he only heard the Kunlun mirror report a few synchronization values +1, and then nothing else. Qiu Chang's time was immediately a little unhappy. However, these Shushan disciples had never seen his strength, so it was expected that they could not contribute a lot of synchronization points. It can only be said that they are all short-sighted. Master. He saluted to Master Jingwu. My dear nephew Qiu was very elegant. Master Jingwu smiled faintly. With the relationship with Master Ziya, Master Jingwu's tolerance for him was very high, so that the Shushan disciples next to him immediately made a commotion. Everyone wanted to know who this strange visitor was, who could make Master Jingwu so friendly. Qiu Chang's time exchanged a few polite words with Master Jingwu, and saluted the Shushan disciples who were in an uproar. Kumling Qiu Chang Tian, meet all Shushan Taoist friends. The Shushan disciples hurriedly returned the salute, and the atmosphere on the field became much more harmonious. Among these people, in the team of Qian Peak disciples, there was another Watful-level disciple named Yuan's, who looked at Qiu Chang's time with a different meaning from his other fellow disciples. He was actually an inside spy of the Donghuan duo who had ambushed into Shushan. He was thinking to himself at this moment, I received a secret letter from the duo saying that a demon clan member named Ta Shanjun wanted to sneak into the demon-locking tower to rescue a certain important person. He asked me to wait for instructions at any time and contact him. Could it be that this Kunlun chief Qiu Chang's time was the Ta Shanjun who sneaked in disguise? Well, he killed the Kunlun chief halfway and then used illusion to disguise himself as his appearance. Considering that Shushan is not familiar with Kunlun disciples, this possibility is quite high. We should try to contact him and test him later. Master Jingwu explained the precautions to the disciples, and then led the team to enter the demon-locking tower. Qiu Chang's time walked beside Master Jingwu, and the Kunlun mirror had already started to play that video recorded by the future Kunlun mirror so that he could act according to the strategy. Well, he looked back at Ling Yunpo and passed the strategy to his Kunlun mirror. Qiu Chang's time turned his head and cast a secret glance at his past self, then turned back and looked forward intently. After passing through the long and narrow corridor, he entered the 8 Gates Hall on the first floor of the demon-locking tower. While Master Jingwu was explaining the rules of action, Qiu Chang's time followed the strategy and found an opportunity when no one was paying attention, and ran to the next floor through the open door. Before he reached the 3rd floor, he saw Yuan chasing after him from behind and called out to him, "Fellow Taoist Qiu. Everyone is acting on the 1st floor, why did you run down there alone?" Qiu Chang's time understood this guy's identity immediately after reading the lines in the strategy guide, so he sneered and said, "How can I have the chance to contact you alone if I don't leave the 1st floor?" Yuan became serious when he heard this, frowned and asked, "Who are you?" Qiu Chang's time said expressionlessly, "My clan and your sect have an agreement. Your sect should send people to help in this operation. I wonder if it still counts." As he spoke, he silently condensed the jade pivot thunder in the palm of his right hand which was drooping. Looking at the green lightning in the opponent's hand and the terrifying threatening aura coming from it, Yuan immediately felt scared to death, knowing that if he uttered a word of no, this Ta Shanjun would kill him immediately. He nodded quickly and said, "Of course it counts. I meet Ta Shanjun, just give me your orders." Since he could say agreement and help, this person must be Ta Shanjun without a doubt. Qiu Chang's time snorted coldly and said, "I came here in a hurry this time, but I never thought that the Shushan demon-locking tower would be open today." "Indeed," Yuan said quickly, "according to common sense, it should actually be opened in a few years. It's just that some time ago, the elite disciples of Kunlun Penglai entered the East China Sea Palace together, and many of them increased their strength. So the Shushan high-level officials opened the demon-locking tower trial ahead of schedule in a hurry. It's their business if they want to take the trial, but they can't ruin my big plan. Qiu Changtian said irritably, in order to rescue the adult, I have to leave the team for a long time. You go to the team and create chaos immediately to divert everyone's attention. I see, create chaos. Zhuan nodded in response, his mind racing. I got it. 2 disciples from King Luo Peak are also here to participate in the trial this time. If I design some trouble and put the blame on Anzisu or Limunpo, with the hatred of King Luo Peak and Shushan, I will definitely turn the team upside down. Qiu Changtian was almost vomiting blood. Good man, this mess was caused by me. No. Zhuan thought carefully for a moment, and then said, the 8 secret realms on each floor of the Shushan Locking Demon Tower are not connected to each other, and can only be used through the central hall. If you want to frame these 2 people, it is easy for the other party to come up with an alibi. It is better to pretend that it was done by the 7 killings immortal, so that these 2 people can't defend themselves. Qiu Changtian was speechless, and after a while he said, that's right. I heard that the 7 killings immortal has been in seclusion for a long time, and no one has seen him. Who knows whether he is alive or dead, and whether he has already secretly broken out of seclusion. It is enough to confuse people with this. Tushanjun is wise, there are actually difficulties in this. Zhuan said with a flattering smile, as I said before, the 8 secret realms on each floor are only connected to each other through the central hall. If it is delayed later, and an accident occurs in any secret realm, Jinwu Immortal will definitely strictly investigate the people who enter this secret realm. After a few times, even if it is a simple elimination method, it is easy to lock it on the villain's head. I heard that Ta Shanjun is an extraordinary magician. Can you give me some simple methods so that I can disguise myself as a disciple of another peak? As long as I can confuse Master Jinwu, I am confident that I can delay that progress of the team and prevent them from coming down too early and ruining your plan. Qiu Changtian sneered in his heart. This guy is still so treacherous that he even finds excuses to ask for Taoist magic. If it was the real Ta Shanjun, he might appreciate his quick wit and really give him a magic trick, but where can I find a magic trick for him? He looked at the strategy released by the Kunlun Mirror, and was silent for a long time before he slowly said, what you said is indeed reasonable. I have a talisman here, called the 10,000 miles water vein divine travel talisman, which can jump between different water veins. The jumping distance has been set by me, and it can only be transmitted between water veins on the same level. When you enter any secret realm, as long as you use your true essence to activate this talisman, you can jump to other secret realms without being known. In addition, this talisman can only be used 4 times at most, and you need to find me to recharge it. Be careful and don't waste it. Zhuan heard helplessly. This Ta Shanjun was really cunning. Not only did he refuse to grant the illusion, but he also stuffed him with a strange object with a limited number of uses, clearly unwilling to let him take any advantage. Qiu Changtian had a blank expression on his face. According to the strange method recorded in the Kunlun Mirror strategy, he silently operated the water element Divine Light among the 5 elements Divine Light to reset the jumping route of the 10,000 miles water vein divine travel talisman. Then he handed it to Zhuan. Thank you, Ta Shanjun. Zhuan hurriedly thanked him. If you have nothing else, leave now. Qiu Changtian waved his hand. He had 1,000 words to say, but he couldn't say a word. Where did this method of setting up the one-lay water vein divine traveling talisman come from? No, who wrote this whole guide in the first place? Chapter 135. A middleman who takes advantage of everyone. The future has infinite possibilities, Kunlun Mirror explained. For example, it's like there are infinite roads ahead of you. I randomly checked 10,000 roads and found that only one is a way to survive, and the rest led to death. Then I recorded the details of this road, which is the strategy you see. I see. Qiu Changtian pondered and said, then if I go to kill the Long Eyebrow Immortal now, can you also find the only possibility that allows me to survive from tens of thousands of inevitable endings? If you go to kill the Long Eyebrow Immortal now, the success rate is definitely less than 1 in tens of thousands, okay? Kunlun Mirror said speechlessly, besides, my spiritual power is not infinite. I have to teleport you back and forth, and give you a mirror flower and water moon as a disguise, and now I have to help you design a strategy. Okay, don't say it. Qiu Changtian said immediately, I also understand your difficulties, but isn't this all for the future we are pursuing? As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly felt something was wrong. Why did he seem like a lazy husband dealing with his wife snapping? Throwing away the messy thoughts in his mind, Qiu Changtian continued to look at the strategy. The strategy said that next, he would have Arjun disguise himself as the Zuans just now, and then go down to the 30th floor. So after putting on the illusion of mirror flower water moon, Kyo changed time passed through the layers, opened the door, and went down the stairs. The lower the floor, the darker the color of the surrounding walls, and the more and denser the tactile characters on them, giving people a kind of nervous, uneasy, oppressive and dangerous feeling. Going down to the 30th floor, Kyo changed time saw a Shushanjun Zenran who looked like a deacon, standing in the middle of the hall with his hands behind his back, carefully looking at the immortal seals on the wall. Greetings to Ta Shanjun. Kyo changed time bowed and said. The person turned around, but it was the image of a middle-aged beautiful woman, and smiled. How do you know I am Ta Shanjun? If I want to infiltrate the demon-locking tower, I will definitely choose to disguise myself as a deacon in the tower. Kyo changed time replied. Not necessarily. Tu Shanjun smiled and said, why can't I pretend to be a Shushan disciple entering the tower for the trial? Because Tu Shanjun didn't know in advance that the demon-locking tower would start the trial today. Kyo changed time replied. Why didn't I know? If Tu Shanjun knew, there would be no need to activate me. Kyo changed time whispered. You are quite clever and opportunistic. Tu Shanjun laughed. You are the Zuans, right? Exactly. The formation mechanism of this demon-locking tower is too profound, I can't understand it. Tu Shanjun paused here. I have to talk to some juniors in the tower. During this period of time, we can't let those Shushan disciples who were on trial come down to disturb us. Do you have any good ideas? Kyo changed time pretended to think for a moment, then said. In this case, I have a plan. Now among the Shushan, King Luo Peak has the worst reputation. It happens that the Peak Master is Shenrenkisha. He is now in seclusion, and no one knows what's going on. I will attack the disciples in the Foundation establishment realm everywhere and leave the name of Shenrenkisha. When everyone is in danger, please ask Tu Shanjun to disguise as Shenrenkisha and attack Shenrenjin, who is leading the Foundation establishment realm trial team. I see. Tu Shanjun nodded slightly. If Master Jingwu is attacked suddenly, the panic will be pushed to the highest point. Master Jingwu will definitely choose to win the trial to protect these Foundation establishment disciples. Plus, it has been confirmed that Master Kisha Sujian is seeking revenge in the tower. When the news spreads from Master Jingwu to the lower levels, the trial teams in the Golden Core realm will also be shocked and terrified. Everyone is afraid of being found by Sujian, so they will choose to temporarily evacuate the demon-locking tower. At this point, Tu Shanjun suddenly turned around. From a middle-aged beautiful woman with noble temperament, she suddenly turned into a tall, grey-haired, and majestic and cold old handsome man. How about this? Tu Shanjun said in a deep male voice, and summoned a cold flying sword, which was 80% similar to the cold sword. Do you think I look like the 7 Killings Immortal? Kyo changed iron. There is absolutely no flaw. He immediately complimented, it is comparable to the magic of the immortals. It's just a little trick. Tu Shanjun said indifferently, and suddenly raised his hand and shot a cold light into Kyo changed iron's body. This is it. Kyo changed iron's face changed drastically. A reward for you. Tu Shanjun replied. Kyo changed iron held his breath and looked into his sea of consciousness, and saw a light spot in his sea of consciousness. His spiritual consciousness probed into it, but it was some simple illusion methods, and she planted a secret illusion on you. Kumla Mirror reminded, if you have any intention of betrayal in your heart, she will immediately have a telepathic feeling and know it. So magical. Kyo changed iron said in surprise. He only knew how to search the soul and check the memory before, but he didn't know there was such a secret lie detection technique. It's not magical. Just as she said, it's just a trifle. Kumla Mirror smiled and said, your Tao heart is clear and you are not afraid of illusions, and I have blocked it, so you don't have to worry. Very good, you are worthy at being my Jing. So Kyo changed iron pretended to be surprised and said, thank you Ta Shanjun for the magic of illusion. You go to create chaos for the Shushan disciples, of course you need some means to save your life. Ta Shanjun confirmed that the man in front of him had no intention of betraying, and said kindly, go. If you encounter any problems, go to the Death Gate area on the 47th floor to find me. Okay. Kyo changed iron bowed and left. He walked up to the upper level according to the strategy and soon returned to the 10th floor. In the central hall of the 10th floor, Zuans was waiting in the Shaman passage. Seeing Kyo changed time coming back, he hurriedly emerged from the passage and reported his achievements in a flattering manner. I am here to see Lord Tarshan. Let Lord Tarshan know that the team has now reached the 7th floor, and 2 people have been ambushed and killed by 7 killers. Now in the Foundation Establishment Realm Trial Team, the disciples are already on high alert. Lord Jingwu does not allow everyone to freely choose the 8 gates of trial, and requires those in the same peep to act collectively. Now many disciples are worried about being killed, and they are moving cautiously in the secret realm, and their speed is not fast at all. Very good. Qiu Changtai showed a look of approval. I still have important things to do down there. You continue to delay their progress. There is one more thing I want to tell Lord Tarshan. Zhu once took out the 10,000 miles water veins divine travel talisman and said, I have used this talisman twice, and there are 2 left. Just in case, can Lord Tarshan help me recharge it? Yes. Qiu Changtai took the 10,000 miles water veins divine travel talisman and put it into his sleeve. Zhuan's. This talisman has many restrictions and is inconvenient to use. Qiu Changtai sneered, I think you are also smart and can see the opportunity. I will teach you a few tricks of illusion for the time being. Just listen carefully. Zhuan's was stunned at first, and then he was overjoyed. For a hidden traitor like him, it is self-evident which is more important, a rare item that cannot be used again after a few uses and must be taken back, or the illusion of disguise that he urgently needs. Qiu Changtai told Zhuan's the method given by Tu Shanjin. Zhuan's hurriedly took note of it carefully, and thanked him profusely, and was so grateful that Qiu Changtai didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Being a middleman, eating up the upper and lower houses, it feels really good. Chapter 136. Kill the Viper and complete the loop. After teaching him the magic of illusion, Qiu Changtai asked Zhuan's to continue to lurk and create chaos. When this person returned to the upper level, he followed the instructions of the strategy and directly entered the Jingmen on the 10th level. The Jingmen area here is a beautiful valley plain, where a large number of flower demons hover and live. Seeing Qiu Changtai, the uninvited guest, breaking in, the little flower demons were frightened and flew up and down, and all hid deep in the grass. Qiu Changtai ignored them, but just found a stream nearby, waded into it, and then activated the one-lay water vein divine travel talisman. According to the method given by the Kunlun mirror, under the flow of the water system divine light, a mysterious induction immediately appeared in the sea of consciousness, which was all the independent water veins near this water vein. From small streams and pools to large rivers, lakes and seas, as long as they are separated and not connected to each other, they are considered an independent water vein, forming a mysterious connection with Qiu Changtai. But Qiu Changtai could only sense where there were water veins, but could not sense in advance whether the other party was a stream, a pool, a river, a lake, or the sea, and could not even judge the distance and direction. However, there were strategies that could be used to cheat, so these were not a problem. Soon, Qiu Changtai followed the instructions of the strategy, logged onto a distant water source, and then teleported over. In a split second, he had teleported to the entrance of the cave at the bottom of the river. Calculating the time, the senior sister and his past self should be entering this secret realm at this time, and the entrance is more than 10 miles away from here. Qiu Changtai seized the time, first activated the water repellent beads to reduce the resistance of movement in the water, and then rushed into the passage of the cave at the bottom of the river. Before he went deep into a distance, he saw a large number of water snakes and monsters rushing out from inside, twisting and tangling, ferocious and terrifying, opening their bloody mouths and sharp fangs, and rushing towards Qiu Changtai fiercely. Qiu Changtai was not afraid, he just pulled out the Arctic Thunder, and a ball of lightning hit them, immediately hitting the first few water snakes to pieces, and the poisonous blood overflowed. The remaining water snakes immediately fled in a commotion. Although they didn't know what the Arctic Thunder was, they had the instinct of being monsters. They realized that the ball of lightning was extremely dangerous, and even restrained themselves faintly, and immediately scattered like birds and beasts. Qiu Changtai didn't seek to eliminate all evil, but just walked forward leisurely, and by the way, he used the sword energy of Xiao Fu Shangyan to harvest those water snake monsters that didn't have time to escape, thinking to himself that this was the case. No wonder Ling Yunpo didn't encounter many monsters when he came here with his senior sister. It turned out that I killed them all first. Thinking about the whole story, Qiu Changtai also had some feelings. The feelings are all calculated. He rushed into the depths of the cave as if he was in an empty place, and he saw a thick water viper entrenched in it, and sprayed a large amount of poisonous fog at him when he met it. The poisonous fog was purple and looked extremely thick in the river water. It didn't look like a good magic. Kyo Chang-time's expression did not change, but he quickly pinched the dough formula. Since he cultivated to the water level, he derived the third Taoist art from the Nine Heavens Kingwei realm mantra, called Tosan Chuanji Spirit Talisman. This talisman has no other characteristics, but it is powerful in spiritual power and has the ability to suppress and seal. A huge talisman composed of spiritual power was slapped out, and the poisonous fog was immediately dispersed. The water snake was stunned, as if it didn't expect that its innate magical power would be so easily broken. When it came back to its senses in horror, it was hit by Kyo Chang-time's Arctic Thunder, and the whole dragon head burst like a watermelon. The Arctic Thunder, which is specifically used to counter the Dragon Clan, would be broken and bloody even if it was a Jindan-level dragon. Not to mention this small water snake at the water level. The fragmented body of the water viper floated in the center of the hall, with blood and flesh fragments everywhere. Kyo Chang-time didn't want to dirty his Taoist robe, so he simply activated the 5 elements extinction light and vaporized all the blood and flesh into ash with the mechanism of wood generating fire. Then he walked through the cave hall and went to the treasure room inside. There were still a lot of discarded spiritual stones inside, like dust and rubble, without any value. There were only some magic weapons scattered on it, which should have been collected by the water viper after it occupied this place. However, the water viper itself was only at the water level, so what good magic weapons could it collect? From Kyo Chang-time's perspective, which was far superior to that of the same level, there was no doubt that it was all garbage. No wonder Senior Sister didn't even look at it and skipped it directly. Wait, where are the water repellent beads and the Wanlei water vein divine travel talisman? Kyo Chang-time turned the spiritual stone pile over and over again, but he couldn't find the water repellent beads. He did find the small tripod that hid the talisman, but when he opened the lid, it was empty and there was nothing at all. This is bad. What if Ling Yunpo and Senior Sister come here later and can't find the water repellent pearl and the 10,000 miles water vein magical talisman? Without the former, it's a small matter. If the latter is gone, how can Ling Yunpo and Senior Sister leave here? How can they go to the Blood Pool and Red Tide? Go to the Sea of Clouds and empty space? Isn't this a mess of history? What are you worrying about? Kum Linjin was speechless and couldn't help saying, aren't the water repellent pearl and the 10,000 miles water vein magical talisman on you? Kyo Chang-time. After being stunned for a long time, he suddenly reacted. So I got these two things from the past just to let me put them back to the original place in the future, so that the past me can get them again according to history. Isn't this, that thing, an infinite loop? Then where did these water repellent pearl and the 10,000 miles water vein magical talisman come from in the first place, and where did they go in the end? I've said it all. Kumlan Mirror sighed helplessly. This is to achieve the loop of history, and it creates a threat that does not exist on the original timeline. It comes from nothingness, and after helping you survive this death calamity, it will naturally return to nothingness. Kyo Chang-time. I can only say that the avenue of time is really mysterious and completely incomprehensible. After Lin Yunpo and Zisu were teleported for the 4th time and entered the deep-sea environment full of dragons, the water-repellent beads did play a certain role in reducing resistance and facilitating escape. But in terms of running away, the 10,000 miles water vein divine traveling talisman that can be teleported as long as there is water is more practical. It's a pity to let them return to nothingness and fall into an endless time loop, but Kyo Chang-time is determined after all, knowing that if it weren't for his cheating this time, the original Ling Yunpo and Zisu would not have left the trial team. Then, Zhuan's and Tu Shanjin would be connected normally, and a series of attacks would be made later, and the blame would be put on Su Jian, causing the two to suffer. Even if the two are not killed on the spot by Master Jin, the trial would not be able to continue, and they would miss the Blood Pool and the Sea of Clouds. Not to mention, they had to survive the dragon riot brought by Tu Shanjin. Compared with those death disasters that can be avoided, the benefits that can be obtained are just a Wanlei water vein magic talisman and a water repellent bead. What is there to be stingy about? Abandon it. Kyo Chang-time gritted his teeth and charged the Wanlei water vein magic talisman, adjusted it to the state where it is automatically activated when the tentacles are touched, and set the destination according to the strategy, pointing to the water vein representing the 28th layer of the blood pool. Then he stuffed it into the small tripod, covered it with a lid and stuffed it under the pile of spirit stones, and threw the water repellent bead casually. Finally, he left the cave at the bottom of the river without looking back and walked outside. Chapter 137. the North Sea abyss, between the infinite. After leaving the cave at the bottom of the river, Qiu Changtime calculated the time again. Knowing that Ling Yunpo and Zisu were about to arrive, he quickly took a wide arc to avoid meeting them. Then he returned according to his memory and arrived at the entrance of this secret place. According to the guide, after arriving at the entrance, you cannot go directly back to the central hall, but wait here for 2 hours. Qiu Changtime had to rest in place. After almost 2 hours, he saw a figure flash in front of him. It turned out to be a female disciple of Shushan who looked unfamiliar. She came in from the entrance passage. Meeting Ta Shanjin, Qiu Changtime said hurriedly. The female disciple of Shushan was slightly startled, then she covered her mouth and laughed. It's really interesting. How did you recognize me the second time? Due to several attacks, now Master Jing requires disciples of the same peep to act together. Qiu Changtime said with a smile, Tu Shanjin is alone like this, isn't it deliberately going against the orders of Master Jing? Oh, but Master Jing's orders, do everyone have to obey? Tu Shanjin smiled, can't you just pretend to obey but actually disobey? This is the Death Gate area. Even if you were alone on purpose, you can't choose the Death Gate for the trial. Qiu Changtime said seriously, even if you choose the Death Gate for the trial, ordinary disciples entering here will be trembling and treading on thin ice. How can they be as calm as Master Xinjin? Tu Shanjin was stunned, and then fell into deep thought. She dared to sneak into Shushan alone, of course she was not a fool. With her superb illusion skills, most of the important places of the sects were defenseless to her. But what this person said was indeed right. You can't just rely on illusions, you have to hone your acting skills. Wait, this guy seems to have a good brain, why don't we? Come with me. Tu Shanjin turned around. The two left the secret realm and returned to the central hall, then went down all the way, under the disguise of illusion, quietly bypassed the trial team of Shushan along the wall of the hall, and finally went down to the 47th floor. After passing through the Death Gate, they came to a deep sea area. The surrounding water is deep, and there are dark ocean currents above, below, left and right. There are no seaweed, reefs, fish, turtles, shrimps or crabs, only impurities and bubbles surging in the seawater. Tu Shanjin continued to move forward with Qiu Changtime. As the depth gradually increased, Qiu Changtime could already vaguely see the outline of the seabed below. This secret place is built in imitation of the North Sea abyss. Tu Shanjin said leisurely, the human world and the demon world have been separated until now, you humans should not know where the North Sea is, right? Not really. Qiu Changtime said calmly, there are still some records in the classics that say that the North Sea is a place that is so remote that it is not seen by the world. There is no day and no light all day, surrounded by dragons, extremely dangerous. Really? Tu Shanjin didn't care, that's really surprising. The two walked forward for a few miles and arrived at a certain abyss. Continuing down the abyss, the visibility became lower and lower until the two finally landed at the bottom of the abyss. The water pressure here was already very high, which made Qiu Changtime a little uncomfortable. He noticed that the ground under his feet seemed to be made of fine sand, but it was pressed like fine steel, and it felt like a stone floor when he stepped on it. It's right here. Tu Shanjin said, I came to the human world this time and sneaked into the demon locking tower to save a senior. Her voice paused for a moment, and continued. Have you heard of Yinglong? Yes. Qiu Changtime replied, I heard that the dragon has 5 transformations. At first it is a water snake, and after 500 years it is still alive and grows scales and turns into a dragon. After another 1,000 years of not dying, it turns red and turns into a Qilong. After another 500 years of not dying, it grows horns and turns into a Qilong. Finally, after another 1,000 years, it attains enlightenment and grows wings and turns into a Yinglong. From the perspective of physical changes alone, what you said is not wrong. Tu Shanjin was slightly surprised and corrected, but in fact, the evolution of the Dragon Clan does not only look at the age, but the improvement of rank. The later it is, the harder it is to improve the rank. And the senior I want to rescue this time is probably the only Yinglong in the world. According to the records in our demon world, this senior Yinglong fell into the human world 100,000 years ago and was imprisoned in the demon locking tower by human monks. He was locked in a secret place called Wujianjie. Wujianjie? Qiu Changtime asked curiously. That is, a gap without a gap. Tu Shanjin said seriously, it seems to be an independent space somewhere. Normal space is continuous, just like an endless plane, you can run freely on the plane. Independent space is discontinuous, just like islands in the ocean. If you run on one of the islands, you can't reach another island anyway, you must cross the ocean in other ways. Qiu Changtime pretended to think and asked in confusion. In that case, what do you think, Tu Shanjin? I don't have any space-related magical powers, so I naturally can't cross this ocean. Tu Shanjin sighed, but there should be a bridge in this ocean, but I can't find it, so I asked you to help me. Qiu Changtime was stunned when he heard it. This is both an ocean and a bridge, what kind of trick is he trying to play with me? However, he already knew how to get to the space where Yinglong was imprisoned. Since he couldn't move there, he could only jump there. For example, the one-way water vein divine travel talisman. Of course, this talisman has been left to Ling Yun to break them, so he has to think of other ways, such as, Qiu Changtime suddenly had an idea. Speaking of space jumping, isn't that a Jin's specialty? A Jin, you? He opened his mouth and heard Kung Lin Jun say, okay. According to the strategy, I will teleport you there. Then, Qiu Changtime disappeared from the spot. Tu Shanjin. She slowly opened her eyes, then stretched out her arms in disbelief and waved a few times at Qiu Changtime's original position. Gone. How come he disappeared? Did he find the infinite space? What the hell? I've been looking here for a long time, but I didn't find any clues. This little human ghost who hasn't even reached the transformation stage actually found it as soon as he arrived. She stood there for a while, and couldn't help but get angry again. As the world spun, Qiu Changtime appeared in a familiar space. On his side was the surging Kaijing River, and in front was the majestic Knife Mountain. A huge dragon was perched on the Knife Mountain, with the dragon binding chain piercing its lower body. A lot of blood flowed along the rocks, like a rushing waterfall. Human. Yinglong said lazily, and then opened his mouth as if yawning. The terrifying energy that made people's heart palpitate gathered rapidly in its mouth, and it was about to kill the tiny human below into slacking seconds, but Qiu Changtime suddenly said, Master Yinglong, do you dare to make a bet with me? Chapter 138 Yinglong's Bet, a drop of blood bet. Yinglong heard this and suddenly closed his mouth, revealing a strange expression of deep thought. During the long years of imprisonment, he had become so lazy that he had no interest in most things, and usually spent his time sleeping. But before this, his favorite thing in life was betting and testing human nature, but those memories were too old, so old that he almost forgot that he had this hobby. In addition, among the low-level ants that had not yet transformed, this human was the first one who dared to bet with him. For the first time in life, Yinglong was extra tolerant, because the first time often meant worth remembering and savoring, so he lowered his huge head again, intending to listen to what the human would propose to bet. If the bet was really boring, it would not be too late to kill him. What I want to bet with you is, Qiu Changtime said in a deep voice, if the next human who arrives here faces a dilemma between feelings and interests, I bet he will eventually choose the former. Yinglong's golden vertical pupils narrowed, and his thoughts began to turn rapidly. This bet tests the value orientation of individual human beings, whether they are inclined to value friendship and loyalty or put profit first. The person being tested is limited to the next human being to arrive here, which means that there is a certain degree of unpredictability. The conditions proposed by the other party do not have an obvious advantage and are relatively fair. This bet can be agreed to, but, okay, then I bet that you will choose benefits. Yinglong said in a deep voice, but the specific test for them to make the decision must be determined by me. Qiu Changtime sneered. How can this be? Since we are betting on his decision, the feelings and interests on both sides of the scale should at least be equal, and both of us must agree. If the content of the test is determined by Lord Yinglong, you only need to take out huge benefits, and then put them together with insignificant feelings, and let him make the choice, then wouldn't I definitely lose? How could I do such a boring thing? Yinglong spit out a fierce fire with disdain, melting a large area of rock under his feet. If you don't trust me, then don't make this bet. Not making a bet means that Yinglong has lost interest in him, and his fate is self-evident. So Qiu Changtime pretended to struggle for a moment, and finally had to compromise and said, I have to make this bet. In this case, I can only trust you for the time being. The bet I require is, if I win, you need to release your dragon power for a moment, and then give me a drop of blood. Yinglong was silent for a moment after hearing this, and suddenly burst into laughter, shaking the entire mountain of swords to tremble and crack. Interesting, really interesting. You actually want my blood? Do you know what a drop of my undiluted blood represents? You dare to covet it. You are worthy of coveting it. Qiu Changtime said expressionlessly. Lord Yinglong is now a prisoner, and has been bleeding for so many years. What's wrong with giving me a drop of blood? Hectares. Yinglong said jokingly, I was not forced to bleed, but I lost a bet with an immortal among you humans. In order to fulfill my oath, I had to be trapped here temporarily, and the blood I contributed was all ordinary blood. Let's get back to the point. Since you have the courage to bet my blood essence, it's not impossible, but what equivalent bet can you offer in exchange? Isn't it Lord Yinglong who has the final say on whether the bet is equal? Qiu Changtai smiled coldly. In that case, why don't you just name your price directly? You are quite self-aware. Yinglong showed a humane and sarcastic expression and said, there is nothing on you that I would like. If you lose, I will kill you. If you win, I can do as you say and give you a drop of blood essence. But you also have to agree to one of my requests, so that the bet is equal. How about it? Okay. Qiu Changtai nodded. If you lose the bet, you will be killed. If you don't bet, you will also be killed. So there is no need to consider the price you have to pay for losing the bet. What's important is whether the one drop of blood essence and one request after winning the bet are equivalent. Of course, this question cannot be asked directly, because Yinglong certainly disdains to make any guarantees in advance. In Yinglong's opinion, just being willing to bet with the ant under his feet is the greatest gift to the ant. You still want more fairness, do you deserve it? Of course, if Yinglong knew what the Kunlun mirror was, he would probably put away such contempt. However, he didn't know, so he was bound to lose. After Ling Yunpo and Zisu teleported away again, Qiu Changtai drug the sword light out from behind the mountain and said, it seems that I won. Humph. Yinglong was obviously a little embarrassed. After all, he agreed to the bet in advance, and he also designed the specific test content, but he still lost the bet. I don't remember losing so aggrieved. The only explanation is that the two people who just arrived here, no matter what kind of test they encountered, their reactions were actually expected by the other party. You have known these two Shushan disciples for a long time, and you know that they practice the Taoism of the asking love stream, right? Yinglong asked him with a bad expression. Qiu Changtai didn't talk to him at all, just said lightly, this has nothing to do with our bet. Or does Lord Yinglong intend to deny it? Yinglong became even more angry after hearing this, and could only snort and force himself to find a way out. How could I regret it? Anyway, even if I lost the bet, it would still be in my favor. It folded its 5 colored wings, and its golden vertical pupils suddenly increased. The boundless dragon power exploded like a nuclear bomb in an instant. Qiu Changtai, who faced the dragon power head-on, was like a small boat hit by a tsunami wave, and was almost overturned and fell to the ground. It took a lot of effort to stabilize his body in the air. Yinglong saw his embarrassment, and the remaining anger disappeared immediately, so he lazily put away the dragon power and said, okay. After confirming that the Kunlun mirror had recorded the other party in the mirror, Qiu Changtai nodded palely. Very good, remember your promise. Yinglong's heart was slightly shaken, and a drop of blood from his heart overflowed, and he spit it out in front of him. If you have the chance to go to the Eastern Empire realm, go find my daughter and bring her to the Northern Sea Netherworld. Yinglong's daughter. Qiu Changtai thought for a moment, then took out the clean bottle, put the drop of blood in it, and asked, where is your daughter? What are the characteristics that can be used to identify her? Yinglong was silent for a long time, as if he was lost in some long and melancholy thoughts. After a while, he said, her nickname is Dragon Fox. She has the blood of 3 tribes, human, dragon and fox at the same time, so although she looks like a white fox, she has the golden eyes of a dragon. Such a mixed blood appearance should be unique in the Eastern Empire realm. As for her location, I have been imprisoned in the tower for at least 100,000 years. How do I know? I think she should be with her mother. If you see her, please tell her mother for me. At this point, Yinglong suddenly got stuck again. Tell what? Qiu Changtai saw that he didn't respond for a long time, and couldn't help asking. No, nothing. Yinglong closed his golden vertical pupils, coiled his body around the knife mounting, and stopped talking. There are 3 chapters left, and the chapter on the locking demon tower ends. The second half of this chapter should be written here, which is smoother and more reasonable, and should not be written in the previous chapters. Mistake. This is the disadvantage of not having a draft. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Mundo Fanfic Novelers, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelers. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 139. The truth is revealed. The Dragon Tribe riots. Thank you for subscribing and supporting the extra chapter. Master Yinglong, the bet is over. Can you let me leave here? You go. Yinglong lazily shook his tail, and a black hole appeared in the sky. Qiu Changtime confirmed the strategy again, read the lines and said, I don't want to go back the same way, can you teleport me to the 12th floor? Oh? Yinglong said without raising his head, why should I help you? Master Yinglong, have you ever heard of the name Ta Shanjun? Qiu Changtime took out his trump card. Yinglong, who was still shaking his tail carelessly, suddenly paused. Ta Shanjun is not a name, but a title. After a long while, he slowly said, it is the messenger of the Qingqiu clan walking in the world, and the unique title of the Moon Fantasy Fox. Then I know why Ta Shanjun asked you to find me. As he said that, Yinglong shook his tail again and opened a second black hole in front of Qiu Changtime. This is the exit to the 12th floor of the Jin Men, you can leave from here. Qiu Changtime thanked him, then passed through the black hole and disappeared in this world. After a while, Ta Shanjun, dressed as a Shushan disciple, slowly walked out of the first black hole opened by Yinglong. She looked at Yinglong on the knife mounting, was silent for a while, and called out, brother-in-law. Qiu Changtime passed through the black hole and came to the Jinmen area on the 12th floor. There were not many monsters here, but there were many monster corpses, which seemed to be killed by Shushan disciples who had just passed by. After flying forward for a while, through the woods, Qiu Changtime saw a Shushan disciple who was seriously injured and dying, lying on the ground, just dying. Xuan's, who attacked him by surprise, was standing nearby. He was startled when he suddenly saw someone breaking in, and then he saw that it was the Ta Shanjun. He smiled again and said, I have met Ta Shanjun. How is the big thing of the real master? Almost done, but there is still some finishing work to do. Qiu Changtime nodded. If you have anything, just tell me. Before Xuan's finished speaking, the Kingping sword suddenly shot out and pierced his chest. His smile was still on his face, and his eyes quickly turned into confusion, anger and fear, and finally only the despair of death. Qiu Changtime looked at the two corpses coldly, thinking for a moment, and then pulled out the oolong sword, turned into a sword lighter at the two corpses, and then flew towards the exit with the sword. In the central hall, the furious Jing Wuzenren had already issued a wanted notice for Ling Yunpo and Zissou among the Shushan disciples. Everyone, follow me and leave the tower immediately. If you have any clues about Ling Yunpo and Zissou, please report it at any time. He swept his eyes over the trembling disciples and suddenly glared. Has anyone seen Kunlun's chief Qiu Changtime? As soon as he finished speaking, Qiu Changtime calmly appeared from the passage and threw the two bodies on the ground. I happened to see this person assassinating a fellow disciple in the trial secret realm. When this person saw that his tracks were exposed, he turned around and drove the flying sword to kill me, but I killed him in return. The victim's body and this person's flying sword are here, Zenrum will know it at a glance. The two bodies rolled to the ground, and the Shushan disciples exclaimed in unison. The disciples of Qizu Peak where the victim was located were heartbroken, and the senior sister Yuan Jinu had a heavy expression. While the disciples of Qian Peak where Yuan's, who was accused of being the murderer, was located, glared at Qiu Changtime. However, accusing someone of being a murderer is a serious matter after all. It is not that you can say yes or no. Therefore, everyone can only look to Master Jingwu and wait patiently for this master to do justice. Master Jingwu walked forward expressionlessly, first confirming the wounds on the victim's body, including the length, width, depth and the remaining traces of sword energy, and then picked up Yuan's flying sword to examine it. Suddenly, a flash of anger flashed across his face, and he said to the disciples of Qian Peak, "Is this his flying sword?" Yes, the disciples of Qian Peak identified it for a moment, and then their faces changed. Yuan's flying sword is called Bingquan, which is a water-based flying sword. Everyone present is good at using swords, and they immediately thought of the key. Master Jingwu must have discovered that the traces of residual sword energy near the wounds on the body were left by this Bingquan sword. That's great. Lin Yuanzhen breathed a sigh of relief and said, "In this way, the suspicion of Zissou and Ling Yunpo has been cleared." "It's too early to clear King Luo Peak of suspicion." Zhenren Jingwu interrupted him, "Then how do you explain Su Jian's attack?" "I think it was a big demon named Ta Shanjun who impersonated him." Qiu Changtime said calmly, "After this person attacked, I heard him personally admit that it was Ta Shanjun's mission after the crime. He talked to himself about the mastermind behind that crime." Zhenren Jingwu couldn't help showing a strange look, and asked suspiciously, "Besides this, do you have any other evidence?" "No other evidence." Qiu Changtian said frankly, but we can start with this person. If it is confirmed that there are traces of sorcery on his body, doesn't it prove that it was not Su Jian who colluded with him, but the big demon? Zhenren Jing was speechless, just nodded gloomily. However, no matter whether it was Su Jian or a big demon lurking in the tower, the most urgent task was not to find out the truth, but to take these foundation-building disciples away as soon as possible, so as not to die here and cause the disastrous consequence of talent gap. So everyone hurried to climb to the top of the locking demon tower again, and then quickly left Lidenping, flying towards the golden summit of Imre Mountain in groups. Although everyone still had the Blood Pond and the Cloud Sea Sky Realm to go to, it was still obvious which was more important than their own lives and the safety of the sect. As for those disciples who did not have time to come back and were still in other secret realms, they had no time to take care of them at this time. After about a quarter of an hour, the results came from the Ancestral Hall. The elders who were good at magic confirmed that Xuan had indeed used illusions during his lifetime. To be precise, it was the fox demon illusion of the Qingqiu lineage. Considering that Xuan had almost no chance to leave the mountain and contact with external monks after he joined Shushan, the reason why he learned the fox demon illusion technique can only be attributed to the contact with the Qingqiu demon, Yui Huan Tianhu, in the locking demon tower. That is what Qiu Changtian said, Tushanjun disguised as a 7-killing formation. Jin was Hinran, who was waiting outside, seemed a little bit unbelievable about this result, so he wanted to go in to see his master, Yuzheng Zhao. As a result, he suddenly heard an extremely sharp and shrill sound of swords and arrows from the direction of Lidenping. There are demons escaping from the locking demon tower. Yuzheng Zhao immediately rushed out of the inner hall and quickly said, "Call all the peak masters and gather at the golden summit of Imre immediately. Jin, send nephew Qiu away from the Shushan territory and let him return to Kunlun Tai King sect as soon as possible." Unknowingly, I have written nearly 300,000 words. As a new author, I feel very satisfied to see so many people subscribing, so I specially add one more chapter. Chapter 140 Return to Kunlun, a rich harvest. The trip to the demon locking tower came to an end. Next, Ling Yunpo and Zissou escaped from the demon locking tower, were chased by the dragon, and then returned to the Tianji square of the golden summit of Imre Mountain. Finally, the immortal Chanmei launched the Li Dongyi microdust array, killed all the escaping dragons, and imprisoned Jinglong back to the demon locking tower. None of this had anything to do with Qiu Changtian, because from the moment the demon locking tower appeared to warn, Shushan sent him away as soon as possible to avoid any accidents that would hurt the relationship between the two factions. He came here on a magic weapon, and he could only fly on a sword when he returned. After all, Shushan was in chaos now, and Master Jingwu could not send him all the way back to Kunlun. The way back was extremely smooth. The number of practitioners in this world was too small compared to the vast Shenzhou continent. The probability of encountering a cultivator while flying on a sword was probably lower than winning the lottery. After crossing the Qinghai Tibet Plateau and arriving at Kunlun Tianzhu, Qiu Changtian entered the Uxu Palace and reported his trip to Shushan completely to the Ziwei sect master. To summarize, I visited the headmaster of Yuzhi after arriving at Shushan, and there was no mistake in the etiquette. After entering the demon locking tower, I went directly to the blood pool on the lower floor, broke through the marrow washing stage in one breath, and then went to the Sea of Clouds and the Empty Realm, and obtained the power of 30 years of the Transformation Palace. After coming out, I found that something had happened in the trial team of the demon locking tower, and it seemed that a huge conspiracy was happening. I carefully went to the secret realm to investigate, and just happened to run into the murderer committing a crime, so I killed him and prevented the expansion of the conspiracy that endangered Shushan. The headmaster of Yuzheng recognized and thanked me for my contribution, but because he was in a hurry to rescue the demon locking tower, he gave priority to sending me out of Shushan. The headmaster of Ziwei on the 7-color lotus platform listened to the narration of his personal disciple in silence, and did not show any expression for a long time. "I just asked you to go to the demon locking tower and rub the blood pool used by the marrow washing sword immortals. How come you not only finished the marrow washing, but also rubbed the Sea of Clouds and the empty realm of the Transformation Palace? Not only that, but you also happened to run into the demon conspiracy. And you cracked it." Even though Master Ziwei was knowledgeable, he had never seen such a bizarre thing. For example, it was like the first time this disciple went out for training. He was only going to kill a monster that was wreaking havoc in the mine, but he happened to run into a high-level demon monk who had fled here. After reciting the Pure and Tranquility Sutra in his heart, Master Ziwei calmed down. In any case, this disciple finally returned safely and got a great benefit. Isn't that enough? Master has known, you can go back. Master Ziwei waved his whisk and said calmly. Qiu Changtai saluted and left anxiously. If it was someone else, he would be sure to fool him. But Master Kunlun was really not easy to deceive, so Qiu Changtai tried his best to avoid lying, but selectively narrated the truth to avoid revealing any clues. Fortunately, the master didn't seem to have the intention to investigate further. After returning to Jinlan Cave Mansion, Qiu Changtai began to sort out what he had gained. First of all, the biggest gain is the rapid progress of the realm of cultivation. With the help of Lin Yunpo's natural sword bone, the turbid air in the bone marrow was completely removed, thus completing the marrow cleansing directly. Then, with the help of the golden mercury dam and the cloud sea sky realm, it is equivalent to instantly gaining the power of 90 years of Wafu. If I do nothing and retreat for another 110 years, I can steadily form a top-grade 3rd-grade golden elixir. Of course, as a person who wants to ascend the throne of the sky, Qiu Changtai's vision is naturally not limited to the mere 3rd grade. If I work hard for another 200 years and form a more powerful 2nd-grade golden elixir, wouldn't it be wonderful? I have to ask Master about this matter. Does our Kunlun Tai King sect have a secret realm prepared for full-level cultivators? I think there must be. After all, Tai King sect attaches the most importance to the realm of cultivation. Otherwise, why are there more golden elixir cultivators in Kunlun than in Shushan plus Penglai? It's just that there is a major change in Shushan, and Master must find the elders to discuss and deal with it as soon as possible. I'd better go to him in a few days. Secondly, there are all kinds of spoils, including the fox demon illusion taught by Ta Shan Jun, a drop of Yinlong's blood, and Yinlong's blood talent recorded by a Jing. These are obtained by strictly following the strategy. Although I don't know what they're used for, I think they can't be useless. Just like in novels and literature, if a shotgun is hung on the wall, then the shotgun must be fired in the subsequent plot. A Jing's character who is used to hiding things will definitely not write extra steps in the strategy. Anyway, it will come in handy sooner or later. Thinking of this, Qiu Changtai couldn't help but count all the strength cards in his hand again. Qiu Changtai can use the 10th level Jade Dragon Sword, the 3 derivative Taoist methods of 9 Heavens King Wei entering True Words Universal King Bin Xiao Wangming Technique, Shao Fu Shangyang Sword Key, San Chuangji Spirit Talisman, which are blood, output, and control respectively, and the 4 Thunder methods of Yushu, Beiji, Xiandu, and Jie. Ling Yunpo has the 10th Order Kingping Sword, the 10th Order Lizi Sword, and the swordsmanship of various schools. Luo Yan has the 9th Order Tohua Sword, Fanshan Seal, Yuan Bell, and the elixirs, talismans, arrays, etc. accumulated during this period. In summary, it is obvious that Qiu Changtai is taking the Taoism route, Ling Yunpo is taking the swordsmanship route, and Luo Yan is taking the magic weapon route. The 3 routes have their own advantages and disadvantages, so there is no need to force a ranking. In addition, there is the Immortal Law level acquired 5 elements Great Extinction Divine Light, waiting as a trump card. There is also the 100 Poisons Gold and Silkworm Gu, to be mature, the Sutra of Eliminating Demons and Spirits to separate the clear and turbid to be explored for use, an ancient strange cone obtained from the secret realm of the Queen Mother of the West, to be identified, and so on. I have too many cards in my hand. I can play whatever cards I want in the future. After the inventory, Qiu Changtai has full confidence. I feel like I don't need to bring out the first mirror, and I can continue to lurk as planned, slowly plotting to get the fragment of the heaven repairing stone. Why do you think about taking shortcut all day long? Kunlun Mirror said lazily, there are still 999 years before the Sky Leak. You have all kinds of peerless talents, and you have the assistance of Kingping Sword, and I have designed all kinds of strategies for you to avoid death and get benefits. If you still can't ascend to heaven within 1,000 years, how useless are you? Shut up, Jing. Qiu Changtai scolded, think about defeat before thinking about victory, do you understand? Those who do big things must take everything into consideration. What's the point of doing something when you know it's impossible? Yo, don't pay attention to him. Kingping Sword said with a smile, I don't think he wanted to betray you from the beginning, but just deliberately brought up this matter repeatedly to tease you. Of course I know. Kunlun Mirror snorted coldly and said, this guy is frivolous and playful all day long, which is really hateful. I didn't tease you. Qiu Changtai was about to defend himself when he heard Zhu Yingluyan's voice coming from outside the cave. Brother, is it convenient for me to meet? Chapter 141. Sister Zhu doesn't want to be left behind. The Immortal Execution Order. Qiu Changtian was a little confused after hearing what Zhu Yinglyan said. How did I suddenly end up on the demon sect's killing list? Yes. Zhu Yinglyan said in a deep voice. This time it was jointly issued by the Mortal Sect, the Ghost Sect, the Heavenly Demon Sect, and the Eastern Emperor Sect. Whether it is a cultivator of the demon sect or a casual cultivator, no matter how they kill you, they can take the evidence to Mount Watai to claim the reward. Qiu Changtian pondered for a moment and asked, aren't there two more? What about the Health Sect and the Shira Sect? The Health Sect has always been mysterious and has never been open to the world, so it is naturally impossible for them to speak out about it. Zhu Yinglyan explained, as for the Shira Sect, they generally do not issue killing orders, but specialize in receiving killing orders. It turns out that the Shira Sect is a killer organization. Qiu Changtian felt helpless and asked again, what is the reward for killing? I don't know. Zhu Yinglyan replied, probably elixir, Taoism and the like. In short, you should not leave Kunlun in the near future, so as not to be targeted. Qiu Changtian agreed perfunctorily, thinking how can he not go out? The synchronization value of the invincible setting can only be obtained by taking disciples out for training. Sister Am's natal sword can only be found in the South China Sea. Do I have to let Luoyan and Lin Yun break it? But most of my skills are in Qiu Changtian. Unless I use trump cards such as the 5 elements divine light. Seeing Qiu Changtian absent-minded, Zhu Yinglyan became a little angry. Why do you feel so reluctant to go out for training? I don't think you want to contribute to the sect, but want to show off in front of your junior brothers and sisters. This junior sister Zhu is indeed a very smart person. She guessed Qiu Changtian's real intention at once and said with a smile, brother, don't underestimate the demon cult's Huxian order. The tricky thing is that we have no way of knowing how much the other party has offered in return. If the demon cult really regards you as a big threat in the future and offers an extremely exaggerated reward, then it is possible that a Jindan Zenram or a Yuning old monster will come to take the order. Brother, although you have a clear mind, you are still at the marrow washing stage. Can you still defeat the demons at the Jindan and Yuning stages? These words instantly sobered Qiu Changtian up. That's right. The real world is not like in novels, where all the big guys wait for you to develop your strength before taking action. It is a common phenomenon that you are unfortunate enough to encounter an enemy that you cannot deal with and are brutally strangled in the development stage in advance. Even a cautious person like me, who is cautious and careful at every step, has encountered 2 death disasters so far. Because the tree stands out in the forest, the wind will destroy it. With Qiu Changtian's excellent talent, quality and resume, it is quite reasonable and natural for the demon church to use any exaggerated means to strangle him. Thinking of this, Qiu Changtian suddenly remembered the warning of Ziwi's sect master. You have the peerless talent of a clear mind, and most of the difficulties and obstacles on the road of cultivation will become invisible when you come here. However, those crises that cannot be eliminated are even more dangerous to you. He suddenly shuddered and finally woke up completely. It seems that it was the smooth sailing of countless times of going out for training in the past that made him unconsciously develop an arrogant and frivolous heart. Fortunately, Sister Zhu reminded me in time. I'd better stay in Kunlun for a while and avoid the limelight. Sister Am's natal sword can be obtained by Luoyan, who is the least famous, later, so it is not easy to attract attention. But what about the synchronization value of the invincible character? Other identities can't replace Qiu Changtian to brush the synchronization value. If I can't go out to practice, I can't set an example for my junior brothers and sisters. The synchronization value will definitely drop. What should I do, then? Qiu Changtian's eyes shifted to Zhu Yinglyan involuntarily. By the way, has my junior sister been a little slack recently? She always laughs in front of me. A cultivator should be dignified. How can she be so frivolous? Maybe it's because I haven't taken care of my junior sister recently, which has caused her to become so lazy. It's just right to take advantage of the time she spends in Kunlun to cheer her up and concentrate on her practice. Zhu Yinglyan was totally unaware and was still trying to persuade his senior brother. Brother, you have also fought with the demon sect monks. You must know that the demon sect's magic is mostly weird and vicious, and it is difficult to deal with even at the same level. The heavenly demon sect controls the demons, who come and go invisibly. The in-ghost sect binds souls and refines corpses, which is strange and unusual. The Eastern Emperor sect drives beasts and controls insects, which is domineering and cruel. Not to mention the barbarian monks of the Shira sect, each of them is bloodthirsty and murderous, and fearless of death. Brother, if you go out rashly, you'll be ambushed and beaten by them. It's easy to deal with just one or two, but what if there are 3 or 5 groups? What if there are jinn and monks mixed in? I know that my senior brother is good at thunder magic, but after all, you're only at the Shishyi level. What level? Qiu Changtime said suddenly. What? Zhu Yingyuan hadn't reacted yet. A few days ago, with the help of the King Jin Yuan Qi pill, I have successfully entered the what level? Qiu Changtime said seriously. Zhu Yingyuan was in a trance for a moment, and his mind was filled with Qiu Changtime's voice. I have already transformed into a mansion. Qiu Changtime was similar, and his mind was filled with the reminder of invincible persona, synchronization value +1, so he continued. So what you said is right, junior sister. Transforming into a mansion is related to the grade of the pill formation, and it cannot be neglected. I decided to stay in Kunlun and concentrate on practicing and perfecting the purple mansion. Then, that would be the best. Zhu Yingyuan was still a little confused, as if he still couldn't accept the fact that he was suddenly left behind by his senior brother, and just murmured subconsciously. I wonder how junior sister's practice is going. Qiu Changtime laughed. Although it was a gentle smile, combined with the aura of the invincible persona, it seemed to carry a sarcastic and unfriendly atmosphere in Zhu Yingyuan's eyes. It seemed as if an evil fire was starting to come out of her throat. She tried hard to suppress the negative emotions in her heart. Suddenly, she heard Qiu Changtime say, Junior sister Zhu, I want to make a bet with you. What bet? Zhu Yingyuan immediately raised her head and glared, and her voice could not help but rise 8 degrees. For ordinary cultivators, it seems to take 10 years to cleanse the marrow. Qiu Changtime said with a smile. Having been with junior sister for such a long time, he already knew how to divert her attention and not let her get stuck in a dead end like a madman. You have the talent of the 7-act which is heart, and you have the help of the pure Yuan Qi pill, so let's cut the training time in half. 5 years, how about that? Junior sister, can you complete the marrow cleansing within 5 years? Why not? Zhu Yingyuan's chest was raging, but it was no longer an evil fire filled with jealousy and unwillingness, but a fire of chimeral and fighting spirit. It doesn't take 5 years at all. Senior brother has a clear mind of Tao. It only took him 2 months to complete the marrow cleansing since he came out of the palace. Although my 7-act witch's heart is not as good as the clear mind of Tao, it won't take 5 years either. 2 years is enough. Qiu Changtime almost spit out tears when he heard this. I completed the marrow cleansing in 2 months. That's because of Ling Yunpo's natural sword bone aptitude, plus the blood sea marrow cutting at the Shushan locking demon tower. The double superposition is the result, okay? Without these golden fingers, it would be impossible to wash the marrow in 2 months even if the mind of Tao was clear. He was about to say something when he heard Zhu Yingyuan say in a firm tone. If I can't cleanse my marrow and catch up with my brother within 2 years, what dignity do I have to be the second senior sister? Senior brother, there is no need to persuade me anymore. I have made up my mind. Let's make 2 years the agreement. If I can't enter the Watfu, I will, Pa. Qiu Changtime covered her mouth with a hand to prevent her from really swearing any poisonous oath with her Taoist heart. Chapter 142 The fourth trumpet is already in progress. After sending off junior sister Zhu, who was a little shy but had more fighting spirit in her eyes, Qiu Changtime returned to the cave and quickly communicated with Kunlun Mirror. 2 years of marrow cleansing? How is that possible? Kunlun Mirror said in disbelief. Could it be that she also has a helper like Kunlun Mirror? How can she have a mirror to help her? Qiu Changtime said angrily, she just can't bear to be left behind by me, so she has to push herself to the edge and desperately try to catch up. What a silly girl. Indeed. Kunlun Mirror sighed, why do you deliberately provoke her? Didn't I set a goal for her? 5 years. Qiu Changtime explained patiently, with the pure Yuan Qi pill and the 7 orifice exquisite heart, if you work harder to practice, there is still hope for 5 years. Let's take a step back, even if 5 years is not enough, 6 or 7 years will do. Who would have thought that she would cut it to 2 years in a flash? If I hadn't stopped her in time, she would have sworn a poisonous oath with her Duo heart. You have brought disaster to her. Kunlun Mirror sighed. No, how did I harm her? Qiu Changtime said dissatisfiedly, if it weren't for the clear mind of Taoism you gave me, which corresponds to the invincible character, would I have disguised myself as this thankless cheap false king? The template of the invincible character was not designed by me. Kunlun Jin was furious. Besides, why do you have to provoke her? Don't you have several junior brothers and sisters? Other junior brothers and sisters are not as lovely as junior sisters you. Kyo Chang said helplessly, if you say the same words in front of them, they will only feel accustomed to it and contribute less synchronization value. But junior sisters you will be shocked in various ways. In terms of synchronization value, her contribution alone is equal to all those junior brothers and sisters. Kumlinjing was a little stuck for a while. How could she not know what Kyo Chang said? She just subconsciously felt that a gentleman should not do something. In the past, if I could go out for training, although the synchronization values given by other fellow disciples were not as much as sisters you, we had more people after all, so the total amount was not inferior. Kyo Chang continued to sigh, now that I am wanted by the demon sect, it is not convenient for me to go out for training, and I have no other excuses to organize disciples to show off. Can I rely on sisters you alone? He gritted his teeth and continued, this is related to the maintenance of mirror flowers and water moons, and I must not give up easily. At most, I will study and figure out Sister's Yu's personality and character carefully, and try not to let her be affected by the inner demons in the process of brushing the synchronization value. This is not a long-term solution, Kumlinjing said for a moment, and suddenly a light bulb suddenly flashed in his head, and said, by the way, I have a clue about the fourth piece of the beauty and stone fragment. Oh? Kyo Chang raised his eyebrows. Are you going to open a fourth small account again? Tell me, what is the coordinate location? There is no coordinate location this time. Kumlinjing said truthfully, through the screening and observation of the future timeline, I found that a piece of the beauty and stone fragment seemed to have fallen into the hands of the Jirizhou Hell Road. The Hell Road? Kyo Chang said in surprise, is it the sect branch created by the Holy Mother Wadang, who inherited the Jiri sect's orthodoxy after the demise of the ancient Jiri sect? That's right. Kumlinjing said seriously, in the past, the battle between and Jiri ended with the Jiri sect's 10,000 immortals formation being broken and the Jiri sect was defeated. Tongtai knew that there was no hope, so he asked his direct disciple, the Holy Mother Wadang, to leave that formation first to preserve the Jiri sect's orthodoxy. After the departure of the Holy Mother Wadang, in order to prevent the sect from coveting and hunting her down, she always stayed away from the world and cut off all cause and effect from all things, thus blocking any calculation. After that, over the past 10,000 years, her direct sect gradually evolved into the Hell Road, revered the Holy Mother Wadang as the Old Mother Wadang, and the Tibetan sect was stationed in the hometown of the vacuum, and always adhered to the confidentiality principle of avoiding the world and breaking cause and effect, so that now no one knows where the Hell Road is, and how many disciples are walking in the world. In that case, how can we find it? Kyo Chang frowned and said, even the cause and effect are blocked and cannot be calculated. How can we find it? I suggest you try to infiltrate the demon sect first, and then slowly explore the whereabouts of the Hell Road. Kunlun Mirror gave him advice. Among the 6 paths of the demon sect, the mortal path is the largest and most complex, covering all kinds of people. You got the legacy of Chitong Xuan's Hinram of Jirizhou, the eliminating demons and separating the pure and turbid sutra. Isn't it just an opportunity to go to the mortal path to inquire about the whereabouts of the Tongshuan sect he founded? If you can successfully join the Tongshuan sect, you'll have a foundation to plot against the Hell Road. So it's better to take it slow, right? Kyo Chang said with empty eyes, to be honest, nearly 10,000 years have passed, I doubt whether this Tongshuan sect is still there. It's okay, you can confirm it first. Kunlun Mirror pulled out the character template of Mirror Flower and Water Moon. What do you think of this talent? This is, Kyo Chang took a closer look, Chaos Demon Body. What kind of cultivation talent is this? Since Pangwa created the world, the clear air rose to become the sky, and the turbid air sank to become the earth. The Kunlun Mirror explained, because people walk on the ground, there is mostly turbid air in their bodies, about 70%. And because they breathe air, there is 30% clear air. The so-called all things carry in and embrace yang, turbid air is yin, and clear air is yang. This refers to this. Because clear air is agile and turbid air is dull, most of the routes for cultivation are to refine turbid air into clear air. Even when one finally ascends to heaven, whether one becomes an earth immortal, a celestial immortal, or a golden immortal is determined by the amount of turbid air remaining in the body. As for the chaos demon body, it is a rarer physique than the heart of Tao is clear. The turbid air in its body can flow freely like clear air, so there is no need to refine turbid air into clear air. It can even refine clear air into turbid air the other way round, and use the pure turbid air to compress and condense the true essence, which has unique effects that clear air and true essence do not have. Qiu Chang's Haiyan was dumbfounded. Using turbid air to condense true essence, is this possible? You know, the key refining stage is to refine the turbid air in the Danton meridians, and the marrow washing stage is to clean the residual turbid air in the marrow cavity. This turbid air is something that many low-level cultivators hate deeply. Even most people don't touch water after fasting, for fear of being contaminated by the slightest turbid air. But thinking about it carefully, it seems that only the Orthodox religion hates turbid air so much. As far as I know, although the practitioners of the 6 parts of the demon cult still use pure air as the basis for cultivation, they will also refine turbid air into demonic energy, mainly storing it in magic tools and flying swords, so that they have unique means of attack. For example, filthy consciousness, polluted magic tools, etc. are all things that pure air cannot do. Now Jing said that with the physique of the chaos demon body, turbid air can be used as the basis for cultivation, which can greatly expand the number of his trump cards. Thinking of this, Qiu Chang's Haiyan was quite moved, as if a collector had seen an extremely rare collection. It's just, he said hesitantly, although the cultivation aptitude can be switched, the body is still the same. If you contain too much demonic energy in the state of the chaos demon body, will it affect your body when you switch back to other personalities? Generally speaking, it will definitely. Kumlinjing said seriously, after losing the chaos demon body, the turbid air in the body will slowly become dull, causing it to stubbornly remain in the meridians and the sea of Qi. But don't you have the eliminating demon spirit separating the clear and turbid sutra? Qiu Chang's Haiyan. Yes. The eliminating demon spirit separating the clear and turbid sutra can convert the clear and turbid air in the body into each other. As long as you convert all the active demonic energy into Taoist spiritual energy in the state of the chaos demon body, and then switch back to other personalities, isn't it? Chapter 143. First, create a new folder. After deciding to use the template of the chaos demon body, Qiu Chang's Haiyan looked at the character setting requirements again. Mysterious. What does it mean? As the name suggests, it means that people cannot figure out your strength, and can only feel that you are a lofty mountain and unfathomable. Kumlinjing explained. Isn't this the invincible character setting? Qiu Chang's Haiyan just said the first half of the sentence, and then reacted. Invincible and mysterious, there is actually a big difference. The invincible character setting is to show one's own strong strength, causing the audience around to be amazed, admired and envied. The mysterious character setting, according to Arjun, is to hide one's strong strength, causing the audience around to be suspicious, vigilant and afraid. The former is to show it actively, while the latter is to hide it, and then accidentally reveal a little to scare the other party, so that the other party can imagine how powerful it is, so there are more stringent requirements for acting. Well, I'll try my best. Qiu Chang's Haiyan carefully looked at the appearance of this character setting. The facial features are still his own face, but the expression is serious and intimidating. To put it in a metaphor, he looks like Yubakan in the 1996 Hong Kong version or the 2001 mainland version of Swordsman. Qiu Chang's Haiyan was so impressed by Arjun's magic that he was completely overwhelmed. It was obviously the same face, but the change in hairstyle and temperament could make him look like two different people. Even Tony couldn't do such a magic here, right? This is not the first time you have met me. Kumlinjing seemed a little embarrassed, but also a little proud. The flowers in the mirror and the moon in the water, the real and the fake, the illusion, change in a moment, only I can do it in this world. Oh, you are really worthy at being my Arjun. Qiu Chang's Haiyan said with a smile. Don't talk nonsense. Kumlinjing changed the subject. Mount Watai has been located, shall we teleport there now? Don't worry. Probably because of Sister's use reminder, Qiu Chang's Haiyan realized that he couldn't just rush over. This time, we are going to Mount Watai, the lair of the demon cult. All three of our identities have lived in the Orthodox Church for a long time, and their words and deeds are all slightly influenced by the style and habits of the Orthodox monks. If we reveal some clues in the demon cult, we may be killed. The demon cult is different from the Orthodox Church, which values face. Many times, even if there is no evidence, as long as there is a slight suspicion on you, you may end up with a soul-searching and soul-stealing. We must do a good job of intelligence preparation in the early stage. So Qiu Chang's Haiyan set off to the Sutra library to check the relevant information about the 6 parts of the demon cult. However, in the past few days, Zhu Yingyan sat in the cave, took a pure Yuan Qi pill, and then began to guide the true Qi, wash the marrow and cut the meridians. The Qi refining stage is to circulate the sea of Qi and perform the great circulation. While filling the sea of ki, all the turbid ki in the 12 meridians must be cleaned. The 12 meridians are the main meridians for ki circulation. For example, they are like highways with heavy traffic, so it is easy to clean the turbid ki. But in addition to the 12 meridians, the human body also has 8 extraordinary meridians and various blind spots in the marrow cavity, just like the local first-class highways, second-class highways and rural dirt roads. Since the speed of the true ki washing here is relatively slow, the only way is to use the stupid method to grind away the turbid ki bit by bit. Of course, if you want to pass the marrow washing stage quickly, there are also some tricky ways. For example, the pure ki pill can activate the turbid ki in the blocked part, making it easy to be washed out by the true ki. For example, the blood pool in the locking demon tower is many times more condensed than the true ki, so the efficiency of marrow washing is naturally ridiculously fast. The most exaggerated is Ling Yunpo's peerless talent-born sword bone, which makes the meridians of the whole body unobstructed and strong, and there are no dead spots in the marrow cavity. With the superposition of the first two, all the turbid ki is washed away in an instant. Although Zhu Yingyan does not have the latter two, she is fortunate to have the pure ki pill, and the efficiency of marrow washing is much faster than that of the monks of the same level. But as she continued to advance the progress of marrow washing, she gradually realized that something was wrong. Although this pure yuan ki pill can help with marrow washing, the benefits are not exaggerated to the point of being able to complete marrow washing in 2 months. At most it can only reduce the time by 40% to 50%. Why can senior brother Kia wash his marrow in 2 months? Is it because of the bonus of cunning? It is naturally a more time-saving and labor-saving approach to attribute the difference in cultivation realm to the difference in cultivation talent. But junior sister Zhu is so proud that she will never deceive herself in this regard. She knows that cunning means that the Dao heart is clear, and its function is to accelerate enlightenment, mental concentration, immunity to inner demons, all of which are bonuses related to the mind. But this marrow washing is an improvement in the bones. What does it have to do with the mind? It's like a nerd saying that he got full marks in sports because his IQ is above 200. This is simply nonsense. Senior brother must have some special marrow washing skills. In the past, when he just started, Zhu Yingyan would definitely be stubborn. Although he knew that senior brother had a secret book, he refused to ask and had to study it himself. But after a series of things such as becoming a Taoist couple, repairing their Taoist hearts, and exploring the secret realm together, although Zhu Yingyan still wanted to win and surpass his senior brother, he would no longer treat his senior brother as an enemy and guard against him closely. If I have any questions, I can ask him directly. If his senior brother can't answer, it means he is afraid. So Zhu Yingyan got up and planned to find his senior brother. Just as he walked to the door of the cave, he suddenly changed his mind and went back to the stone room to look at the bronze mirror. The fairy in the mirror had a delicate face and a noble temperament, but because of the recent mental pressure, her eyebrows and eyes were a little haggard, but it added a bit of soft beauty. Zhu Yingyan stared at the mirror, stretched out his slender jade fingers, slowly rubbed his eyebrows, and rubbed away all the subtle stagnation. Asking for advice is asking for advice, but you can't let your senior brother realize that you are worried about it. Otherwise, he will think that you need something from him, and his arrogance will be even more arrogant. After finishing her expression, Zhu Yingyan took another iron pill to make sure her face was radiant before she went out slowly. Is senior brother here? She came to the door of Qiu Chang's Time's cave and shouted inside. After a while, there was no response from inside. Zhu Yingyan was frowning when she saw her fourth junior brother Yamza Chui passing by and reminded her casually. Second senior sister, are you looking for senior brother? He has been studying hard in the suitor library these days. Suitor library? Zhu Yingyan asked in confusion, what is he doing in the suitor library? It seems that he is looking up information from the Jiri Zhao. Yan Zichua said with a smile. Jiri Zhao information. Zhu Yingyan thought about it for a while and knew what was going on. I guess senior brother is also worried about being wanted by the demon cult, so he has to study countermeasures in advance. In this way, senior brother actually has his shortcomings, that is, his background is mediocre, his knowledge base is weak, and he knows too little about the world of cultivation. When encountering such an emergency, one can only cram and make up for the relevant knowledge. Thinking of this, Zhu Yingyan had another idea. I can answer any knowledge that senior brother wants to know about the outside world. In return, he must also answer my doubt about marrow washing. In this way, it won't be considered that I am asking him unilaterally. Thinking of this, her hard knot was gone, and she couldn't help but smile. Chapter 144 Then, check some information. Kunlun's Suitor Library. Kyo Chang's Hyun sat beside the desk, flipping through the scriptures with a focused expression. The light projected from the window lattice seemed to be plated with a layer of exquisite gold on his handsome profile. Several female disciples of Kunlun hid beside the bookshelf, peeping at the great chief Kyo with either obsession or fanaticism. If it were in modern times, some girls would have been unable to control themselves and went over to chat with him. But this is ancient times after all. Even though ascetics are generally informal, there is no reason to take the initiative to flirt with strange men. Zhu Yingyan watched for a moment, and suddenly a sense of crisis arose in his heart, as if his senior brother was about to be snatched away by someone. No. It's not that they are worried that their senior brother will be snatched away by someone, but that the senior sisters and junior sisters don't know the true face of their senior brother. Although their senior brother seems perfect, he is actually arrogant and domineering. If you don't have a broad mind when staying with him, you'll sooner or later be driven crazy by his various words and deeds. These fellow disciples only envy his beautiful appearance, but don't know his bad inner self. How can I just sit back and do nothing? So she walked over and sat down opposite Kyo Chang Tian, and cast a sharp glance in the direction of the bookshelf. The female disciples of Kunlun who were still peeping at Kyo Chang Tian immediately fled like a mistress caught by the master. Hey, junior sister, why are you here? Kyo Chang Tian raised his head and asked in surprise at first, and then smiled as if he suddenly realized something. Is that so? Did you encounter any problems in the marrow washing and want to ask me? Looking at his smile, you are here to ask me again, right? Zhu Yingyan suddenly became angry, and finally suppressed it, and said calmly, I heard that senior brother has been looking up the information of Jiri Jiao for several days. Yes. Kyo Chang Tian nodded calmly. What do you need to check? I can help. Zhu Yingyan said directly. It's mainly about the history of the 6 parts of the demon sect, as well as the current situation, etc. Kyo Chang Tian was a little surprised. Why did junior sisters you suddenly ask for help? Maybe she was worried about me, her senior brother. After listening calmly, Zhu Yingyan went deep into the suitor library, took a book from the bookshelf, opened it in front of Kyo Chang Tian, and explained to him. It is not accurate to say that the 6 parts of the demon sect are inherited from the ancient Jiri sect. The path of hell, the path of heavenly demons, and the path of ghosts, only these 3 have inherited the Jiri sect's tradition. Among them, the path of hell is inherited from the Holy Mother Wadang, and its tradition should be the most complete, but it basically does not appear in the world, so there is very little information. The path of heavenly demons is inherited from the 3 Immortals Island, and the path of ghosts is inherited from the Skull Mountain. Their traditions are missing and alienated. On the whole, they show an attitude of eagerness for quick success and instant benefits, look down on the foundation of cultivation, and focus on fighting and killing moves. The path of mortals is inherited from the outer disciples of the Jiri sect in the past. It has many schools and a complex system. It also accepts all kinds of casual cultivators without restrictions. Therefore, it is very bloated and mixed. The Eastern Emperor sect was once a neighboring force of the beast-taming sect. Later, it completely destroyed the beast-taming sect, plundered its Taoist techniques, and claimed to be the successor of the Jiri Jiao sect. However, it is much weaker than the beast-taming sect in its heyday. Some people also suspect that the Eastern Emperor sect is actually a vanguard force planted by the demon world in the human world, but there is no evidence for the time being. The Shura sect is a thorough Western sect that arrived in the Central Plains at the same time as Buddhism in the early years. It basically does not participate in the affairs of the Central Plains, but is brave and fierce, and is used to being the vanguard of the demon sect. Kyo Chang Tian listened patiently and said with a smile, in that case, the ones we really need to worry about are the heavenly demon sect and the ghost sect, right? That's right. Zhu Yingyan thought to himself, you are worthy of being my senior brother. He nodded and said, the Hell sect does not care about worldly affairs, the Shura sect only knows how to kill, the Eastern Emperor sect is bloodthing, and the Mortal sect is a mess. These 4 sects do not have the will or ability to integrate the demon sect. Based on past experience, the collective actions of the demon sect are mostly led by the heavenly demon sect or the ghost sect. I see. Kyo Chang Tian pondered and said, at present, it seems that the ghost sect is more suspicious. Yeah. Zhu Yingyan echoed, do you remember the Longshan vein last time? If I guess correctly, it must be that the ghost sect found that senior brother has too much potential, so they plan to eliminate senior brother in advance. Kyo Chang Tian nodded, approving of his sister's guess. Suddenly, another thought came to his mind. Compared with the Ghost sect, Tu Shanjian is more suspicious, right? After all, the last trip to the demon locking tower was Qiu Changtai who killed the traitor of the East Emperor sect in the Shushan sect with his own strength, and informed the Shushan high level in advance. So Tu Shanjian used the name of the East Emperor sect to set a high reward for himself to vent his anger. It is not impossible. Who is behind this matter? If we don't figure it out, it will be like a thorn in our throat. It seems that this fourth trumpet is bound to attack Mount Watai. Junior sister. Qiu Changtai said gently, why don't you tell me more about the Hell Road and the Mortal Road? Since the Hell Road does not work in the world, how can we confirm that there are still people inheriting the Hell Road? Why is the Mortal Road so scattered? Is there no leader? Zhu Yingyan thought for a moment and said, although the Hell Road does not show up, it has a special way to contact the Heavenly Demon Road, the Ghost Road, and the Mortal Road. The Mortal Road is not so much a sect as a loose alliance of a lot of sects. The nominal leader is the Hunyuan sect of Mount Watai, but in fact there are many factions inside, and it is basically impossible to unify opinions. Hunyuan sect? What a big tone. Qiu Changtai couldn't help laughing. The so-called Hunyuan is before chaos, the beginning of primordial energy, above the acquired and innate, and the rank can be said to be as high as it can be. Although the names of the three pure ones of the Orthodox sect are mostly long and boring, the words used are still relatively cautious. For example, words like Hunyuan and Takeshu are generally not used indiscriminately. Other sects don't care so much. Even for entry-level skills, they can't wait to pile up a super high-end name. Although it is called Hunyuan sect, the disciples are mediocre, so in order to maintain the overall strength of the mortal life duo, they have to accept a large number of independent cultivators to join. Zhu Yingyan said with a chuckle, the price is the loss of leadership. If it weren't for the Heavenly Demon Duo and the Ghost Duo, they only recognized the Hunyuan sect as the sect of the mortal life duo. Maybe it would be like the beast taming duo in the past, and it would be taken over by the foreign Taoist sects. Is that so? Qiu Changtai's mind turned slightly. In this case, the mortal life duo is a suitable place to lurk. When being a spy, the most feared thing is that the other sect has a strong leader, and then conducts internal audits and strict investigations every now and then. Sects like Fanshan Duo, which have no leader and no one in charge, are simply the favorites of spies and traitors. Chapter 145 which Jin glean. After several days of communication with junior sisters Yu in the Sutra Library, Qiu Changtai already had a basic understanding of the 6 parts of the demon cult. The most worthy at vigilance are naturally the Heavenly Demon Path and the Ghost Path. The internal organizational structure of these two sects is strict, and various strange techniques emerge in an endless stream, which need to be focused on. The second is the Donghuan Path and the Shira Path. The former is a cuckoo occupying the magpie's nest. It started as a small sect with weak accumulation. It has seized some of the Taoist traditions of the beast-taming sect, and its overall strength is still low. The latter are all a group of killer embryos. They are fierce in fighting and killing, but they are a mess in other aspects. The largest is the Mortal Path, but the weakest in comprehensive strength is also the Mortal Path, and there is no leader. After sorting out the information, Qiu Changtai thanked junior sisters Yu seriously and then left the Sutra Library. Zhu Yingyan smiled and was very proud. When he returned to the cave, he remembered. Wait, I want to ask senior brother why the marrow washing is so fast, not to help him collect information. Qiu Changtai returned to the cave and told Kunlun Mirror. Amira, what do you think is a good name for my fourth character? Wei Dongliu, how about that? Kunlun Mirror suggested. This name is a bit domineering. Qiu Changtai said suspiciously, how did you come up with it? I feel like you haven't even thought about it. It's not difficult to think of a name. Kunlun Mirror replied, I don't like the name Wei Dongliu, and there are Yunnan, Yan Changnan, Tangwan's Thong, Zhutinglu. Okay, then Wei Dongliu. Qiu Changtai thought about it and felt that they were all about the same, so he interrupted its behavior of reporting the name, then Wei Dongliu, teleport. Kunlun Mirror said in a deep voice. Point 4. What I'm mounting, Nan Lianggu. Character identity. Wei Dongliu. Mirror Flower Water Moon Templar covered, in the process of time and space shuttle. Wei Dongliu opened his eyes again and was already in the mountains. Compared with Kunlun Snow Ridge and Penglai Island, the environment of Mount Watai is closer to Mount Chu, with more undulating terrain and dense forests. But in comparison, the mountains on the side of Mount Chu are steeper, while the side of Mount Watai is slightly flatter, and the trees are more cold resistant and sparse. Wei Dongliu trekked along the mountain road and met several woodcutters on the way. "Excuse me." He stopped the woodcutters. "Excuse me, if you want to visit the immortals in Mount Watai, should you go in this direction?" The woodcutters looked at each other for a moment, and one of them said, "There are indeed some practitioners in the depths of Mount Watai, but most of them are not easy to get along with. If I like you, I will accept you as my disciple. If I don't like you, I am afraid I will even lose my life. This young man, I see that you are also from a good family. You can just walk here, don't go deeper." Wei Dongliu thanked him seriously, and then continued to climb up. Seeing that he insisted on moving forward, the woodcutters shook their heads and sighed. After walking for almost 2 hours, he suddenly heard a faint singing voice coming from the front. Although the voice was soft and sweet, it was sung in dialect and he couldn't understand what it meant. Wei Dongliu narrowed his eyes slightly and found that the voice seemed to be accompanied by an illusion attack. He didn't dare to go deeper. He looked around and chose another mountain road away from the source of the sound, thinking that the woodcutters were right. If a mortal heard this song, he would definitely be deceived by the illusion and foolishly follow the sound. Needless to say, what would happen? After walking for about a quarter of an hour, the singing stopped abruptly. Wei Dongliu continued to move forward and came to a corner of the mountain steps, and saw a small pavilion in front. On the stone table in the pavilion, a copper pot was set up, and ingredients were bubbling in it. Sitting next to her was a purple-clothed girl who looked less than 20 years old. She was staring at the flames under the pot in a daze. Wei Dongliu frowned slightly and was about to take a deep breath, but he heard the other party staring at the pot and said, "Since you are here, why don't you come closer and have a chat? I'm afraid I'll bother you." Wei Dongliu said with a go, and quickly made a distinction in his mind. The voice of the purple-clothed girl is no different from the previous singing. No problem. The purple-clothed girl raised her head and suddenly showed a bright smile. Her eyes are big, but the ends are slightly curved, which is a typical peach blossom eye. Even if her face is calm, there is a charm flowing between her glances. Her nose is small and delicate, and the corners of her mouth are slightly raised. 3 points of smile without speaking, teasing the thought all the time. In the method of face reading, this kind of appearance belongs to beauty brings disaster. Although the surface is exquisite and beautiful, the heart is often cunning, which can easily cause unrest in the family. Wei Dongliu was very alert and confirmed that there was no formation ambush around the pavilion. Then he walked into the pavilion carefully and sat down opposite the purple-clothed girl. "May I know your name?" "My last name is Jiang." The girl smiled sweetly. "My name is Lin, what's your name?" This smile was full of charm and mixed with illusions, which was aimed at confusing people's minds. If an ordinary cultivator fell into her trap, he would immediately fall in love with her, his favorability would be maxed out, and then he would be bewildered by her words, even if it meant going through fire and water. Although Wei Dongliu did not have the talent of a clear mind, fortunately Kunlin was the ancestor of playing with illusions, so he directly dispelled these illusions and quickly notified Wei Dongliu. Knowing that he was attacked by the opponent's illusion again, Wei Dongliu narrowed his eyes slightly, and a bit of murderous intent had already arisen in his heart. Jiang Lin. The appearance of the man in front of her with his eyes narrowed reminded her of a very dangerous person she had met before. She was slightly startled, and calmly removed the illusion, and said with a smile, "But it's inconvenient to tell me your name." "My name is Wei Dongliu." "So it's Brother Wei," Jiang Lin said with a smile, and his mind was also secretly flowing. Wei Dongliu may not be his real name, but Jiang Lin is actually a pseudonym, and the last character of her real name is not An. It is probably because there are countless unconventional magic in Jiao, and there are also secret magics that curse others based on their names, such as the famous ancient nail-headed Seven Arrows book. Of course, those secrets have all been lost now, but just in case, Qian motto still requires all disciples not to reveal their real names, but to call each other by pseudonyms, even within the sect. "Where are Brother Wei from? And why did you come to Mount Watai?" Jiang Lin said with a smile. "I'm a casual cultivator," Wei Dongliu said seriously. "I got the opportunity left by my predecessor by chance in my early years, and now I am here to find a master." "Oh." Jiang Lin immediately understood. "I wonder which master you are looking for." "Tongxuan sect," Wei Dongliu replied. "It is said to be a sect left by the ancient Jiao." Jiang Lin was stunned for a moment, then laughed. "Wei, are you serious?" "Why do you say that?" Wei Dongliu asked in surprise. "The one you are talking about should be the Wanfei Tongxuan sect, which was once the leader of the mortal Dao, but it had cut off its Taoist lineage 4,000 years ago." Jiangling said with a smile. If it were not so, the mortal would not have fallen into the current situation. Tongxuan sect is gone. Wei Dongliu's mind sank slightly. Although he had been mentally prepared, he still felt a little irritated when he heard the news suddenly. If you are here to look for the Wanfei Tongxuan sect, you're indeed late. Seeing his gloomy face, Jiangling pretended to be sad inside. The Wanfei Tongxuan sect, let alone the Taoist lineage, even the outer disciples were all killed in the disaster of exterminating the sect, not to mention the Taoist techniques, magic weapons and other resources within the sect. Even if they were lucky enough to survive in some ruins, they have been almost plundered in the past 4,000 years. Now the only thing left is probably this name, which is used by some ignorant and independent sects. But I can guarantee that these sects named Tongxuan sect have no inheritance relationship with the original Wanfei Tongxuan sect. Even if you build a Wanfei Tongxuan sect yourself, it is estimated that it will be more orthodox than them. Jiangling said this, then he showed a disdainful smile and shook his head. I see. Wei Dongliu pondered for a long time and said, in this way, in order to revive the Taoist lineage of my master, I have no choice but to rebuild the Wanfei Tongxuan sect. Jiangling. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Mundo Fanfic Novelers, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelers. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 146. What can we do to him? Are you serious? Jiangling said in astonishment. How can it be false? Wei Dongliu said seriously. Has your joyous elixir formed? Jiangling asked. Not yet. Wei Dongliu said, as far as I know, a casual cultivator only needs to be at the waffle level to establish a sect in the Immortal Cultivation. Although the rules are like this, a sect of a casual cultivator at the waffle level is just cannon fodder in the Immortal Cultivation. Jiangling reminded. Wei Dongliu smiled slightly, did not answer, just stepped aside and bowed, then left gracefully. Jiangling watched his bag disappear at the end of the mountain road. After a long while, he narrowed his eyes slightly. This person claimed to be a casual cultivator, but he just accidentally got the inheritance of Tongxuan sect. However, how could an ordinary waffle-level cultivator block Heti and Momiaoina for just now? In addition, he wanted to establish his own sect. Who doesn't know that the sects established by waffle-level cultivators are just three-legged cats in the Immortal Cultivation? Unless this person's true cultivation is far superior to that of an ordinary mansion-level cultivator, then it makes sense that he could resist the heavenly demon wonderful sound method and that he was planning to rebuild the Tongxuan sect. Thinking of this, she felt a sense of curiosity and anticipation. Picking up their chopsticks and reaching into the copper pot, picking up a piece of fish and chewing it carefully, Jiangling's eyes smiled into crescents. I thought that this time in Teham Mountain was too boring, but I didn't expect to meet such a rare person. Wonderful, really wonderful. Wei Dongliu left the pavilion and continued walking up the mountain. Then he heard Kunlun Mirror asking in his sea of consciousness, why do you suddenly want to build your own sect? Tongxuan sect has been destroyed. Wei Dongliu said lightly, if I join other sects, with the temperament and style of the demon sect, my life and death will be controlled by the master. If it can be confirmed that the fragments of the booty and stone are in a certain sect, then I will compromise and lurk in it. Now we are just to inquire about the news of the hell. Why take such a big risk? It is safer to build my own sect. Kunlun Mirror pondered for a moment, and said, what you said makes sense. What do you mean not unreasonable? This is the most reasonable response, okay? Wei Dongliu said disdainfully, I'm not going to talk to you, stupid mirror, I have to get to work. Another hour later, Wei Dongliu arrived at the deacon's office in Mount Watai. The so-called sect steward office is usually located at the outermost part of the sect's residence, so as to facilitate the connection with the stewards of the external mines, medicine gardens, and branch residences. Of course, even at the outermost part, there are often patrol disciples responsible for guarding, and no outsiders are allowed to enter without permission. Wei Dongliu, a casual cultivator, actually walked to the gate of the steward hall without encountering a disciple who questioned his identity, which shows how loose the discipline and system within the Fanxingdao are. Excuse me. He came to the side of the counter and knocked on the table. If this sect is established, what procedures do I need to go through? The steward of the Fanxingdao raised his head and looked at him with a little surprise. You want to establish a sect? Yes. What is your current cultivation level, fellow Daoist? What level? 10 tails of medium-grade spirit stones. Wait Dongliu. It's okay to pay money here. Fortunately, Qiu Changtai and Luo Yan were not short of money. He took out a large piece of medium-grade spirit stones and handed it over. The steward picked up the jade slip, raised the brush, and asked, "What is the name of the sect?" "Wanfei Tongshuan sect." Wei Dongliu replied. "If you really want this name, then it will be the 33rd Wanfei Tongshuan sect of this sect." The steward saw that he looked kind, his attitude was neither humble nor arrogant, and he had paid the money quickly before, so he gave him an extra reminder. Now there are too many sects called Tongshuan sect, which is not conducive to fame. Have you thought about it? I have thought about it. Wei Dongliu nodded. Yes. The steward wrote 2 signs, one for himself, and one for Wei Dongliu, saying, "In this way, your sect has been registered and officially became a member of my Fanxingdo. As for the cave residents, the recruitment of disciples and other matters, you still need to solve them yourself. Our steward hall is only responsible for registration." Wei Dongliu laughed dumbly when he heard this. Good guy, even if it was a franchise in the previous life, he would at least give the franchisee some technology and raw materials. You, a mortal, offer nothing but nominal asylum and you want to take a medium-grade spirit stone from me? Then what are the principles for selecting the location of the cave residence? He just opened his mouth when he heard the deacon pointing to the map of Tearham Mountain hanging on the wall and said, "The place is circled with red ink or occupied by sects. Dearest friends, just choose a place where no one is." Wei Dongliu looked at the map again and saw that it was densely packed with circles drawn with red ink. Overall, the closer to the main route line of the Tearham Mountains, that is, the direction of the dragon vein, the more abundant the spiritual energy, and the denser the place is circled with red ink. Many circles intersect with each other. On the surface, these places are shared by the 2 sects, but there is no need to say how many tragic open and secret struggles there are behind them. He was staring at the map in a daze, when he suddenly heard a pleasant female voice next to him. "If you need to find a cave to establish a sect, there are some vacancies near Tontime Gorge." Wei Dongliu turned around and saw that it was not the witch Jianglin who had used magic to test him before. Who else could it be? It's Doyas Jiang. The deacon also recognized the person's appearance, and a trace of fear flashed in his eyes. He bowed and took a half-step back and said, "If the Tianmo doesn't mind, there will be no problem." Tontime Gorge. Wei Dongliu was slightly surprised. "It's here." Jianglin flicked his right hand, and a starlight flew out from his sleeve. It was a silver needle that was nailed directly on the map. Wei Dongliu looked closely and found that it was a place in the southern part of Tearham Mountain. There were large areas of blank space around it, and none of them were circled by the red pen. "Fellow Doyas Jiang." He pondered for a moment and asked, "Near this Tontime Gorge?" Jianglin didn't wait for him to finish, and said directly, "The mountains are amazing and the rivers are surging. It is a place with abundant spiritual energy. The ancient Jirija masters once lived here. It is perfect for establishing a sect." "I see." Wei Dongliu nodded and said, "Why are there no other sects stationed in such a fairy land?" "Because the branch of my Tianmo Dado in Tearham Mountain is located in the Tontime Lake here." Jianglin smiled. "Those ordinary casual cultivators who are weak and have no one behind them are naturally afraid of my Tianmo Dado like scorpions and tigers, and they try to avoid it." "Then why did fellow Doyas Jiang invite me over?" Wei Dongliu also laughed. "I'm just a casual cultivator. Doya Wei is naturally different." Jianglin took a few steps closer, leaned in close, and said in a tender voice, "Doya and I hit it off right away. If Doya can settle down in Tontime Gorge and see you every day, I will be very satisfied." She leaned very close, as if she wanted to stick her body close to him. Before the 2 of them touched, there was a refreshing fragrance that went straight into Wei Dongliu's nostrils. Kumlinjing said irritably, "There is illusion mixed in this fragrance. Is this female devil attracted to you, or what? You should find a chance to get rid of her quickly. A Jin, be patient." Wei Dongliu let her stick to him, and just whispered, "If it is just an illusion attack, it means she is just testing me. There is no need to tear her face with Tianmo Dado for this. I think you enjoy testing her." Kumlinjing said indignantly. He was communicating with Kunlun Mirror, but Jianglin stopped just before he was about to touch him. Seeing that his expression was still clear, she was secretly surprised. It's okay that the Heavenly Demon Wonderful Sound technique failed to work, but how come even the ghostly illusion water I sprayed couldn't confuse him? Is this person in the Golden Core Realm? No, the ghostly illusion water is a magical thing that confuses the mind. even if it is a real person in the Golden Core realm, unless he swallows the antidote in advance or practices the technique to eliminate the drug effect, there is still a risk of being hit. How could he be so indifferent like him, as if the ghostly illusion water didn't exist at all? She was shocked and smiled. Would you like to do me a favor, Wei Doya? Wei Dongliu pondered for a moment, and heard the Kunlun mirror suddenly remind him. Mysterious personality, synchronization value +1. This witch is really cute. Wei Dongliu was overjoyed. I must do you a favor. Chapter 147. The Rise of a Sect in Shipping Mountain. The headquarters of the Heavenly Demon Sect in the Taihang Mountains is located on an artificial island in the middle of Tontyme Lake. Its palace is called Behind Palace. It is said that a great ancient Jirija lived here for a period of time, and his cave was called a similar name. However, although immortals live as long as the sky, they cannot live in the mortal world for a long time. Nowadays, except for a few later immortals, those ancient great powers are no longer in this world, so the Heavenly Demon Sect named it like this, which also has the meaning of commemorating the past. In the Behind Palace, Jianglin was chatting with the eldest sister about Wei Dongliu. What Jintan's Hinran? The eldest sister Aizkin sneered. You really dare to think? How can a casual cultivator who can survive to the Jindan realm not know the power of our Heavenly Demon Sect? And was foolishly deceived by it to come to Tontyme Gorge. If you don't believe it, you can accompany your junior sister to find out the details of Wei Dongliu later. Jianglin said with a smile. What's there to test? Aizkin waved her hands impatiently. There are at least 800 stupid cultivators like this in Taihang Mountain. If you trick one of them here, I have to take action to deal with him. Then you can take the position of the senior sister, and I will deal with those villains. Why is it that, senior sister? Jianglin immediately shed tears and wiped her eyes, saying, Junior sister really doesn't mean that. Junior sister will go and deal with this matter now. I dare not trouble you. She stood up and walked out crying. Aizkin just looked at her back coldly and didn't say anything to keep her. Jianglin left the Behind Palace, wiped the remaining tears on her face, and showed an almost cold expression. Senior sister Aizkin was unwilling to take action, which was also within her expectations. The reason is simple. The master is still in the East China Sea, and there is no Jindan realm cultivator in the Behind Palace. If Wei Dongliu is really a Jintan's Hinran, Aizkin will never be his opponent. If he asked senior sister Ai to find out his details, Aizkin would definitely suspect that there was a fraud and would be wary of Wei Dongliu. In this way, there would be a basis for the two to fight each other later. To be fair, Jianglin hoped that Wei Dongliu could kill Aizkin rather than Aizkin successfully getting rid of Wei Dongliu. After all, if it was the latter, most of Wei Dongliu's inheritance would be taken by Aizkin, and Jianglin would not get any benefit, but she would definitely get rid of herself cleanly. Anyway, there would be no loss. But if it was the former, once Aizkin died, who would take the position of the senior sister? Obviously, it would inevitably cause open and secret struggles among the senior sisters and junior sisters, and even bloody storms. As the youngest and weakest junior sister under the master, it was almost impossible for Jianglin to ascend to the position of the senior sister through normal means. Only chaos was her only ladder for promotion. After roughly calculating the plan, Jianglin flew up again on the sword and flew towards Shipping Mountain opposite Longkoshu. At the top of Shipping Mountain, Wei Dongliu was examining the surrounding terrain. The spiritual energy here was quite abundant, but the top of the mountain was bare, without flowers or trees, which was too ugly. However, Qiu Changtai had lived in Kunlun Snow Ridge for a long time, and had long been accustomed to such uninhabited mountains, so Wei Dongliu flew around Shipping Mountain with a sword light, looking for a suitable place to dig a cave. The flying sword he was using now is a 9th level wood flying sword taken from Kunlun Sword Pavilion, called Green Bamboo. This sword was neither sharp nor heavy, but it could be divided into many clones. There was no upper limit to the number, but it consumed the true essence of the sword master. As long as the sword master still had true essence, he could divide into endless flying swords, each of which had the ability to kill, so it was considered a relatively strange wood flying sword. Just when he found a stream, he saw Jianglin flying over from the opposite side, smiling sweetly and saying, Fellow Daoist Wei, have you found the location? Not yet. Wei Dongliu said lightly, we need to set up a spirit gathering array, but the spiritual energy here is not enough. It would be best to find a place close to the ground vein. Jianglin opened his eyes wide, and his heart became more and more surprised. The so-called spirit gathering array is to concentrate all the spiritual energy in the surrounding area into the cultivator's cave, which can improve the cultivator's breathing efficiency. For the 3 pure ones of the Orthodox Church and the 6 parts of the demonic church, the spirit gathering array is of course a basic operation, but for casual cultivators, it is an unattainable luxury. Apart from anything else, even if you have enough spirit stones, do you have the connections to find that corresponding array master to set up and maintain the spirit gathering array for you? Those who can set up the spirit gathering array, even if they are not from big sects, are absolutely core figures in small and medium sects. Who exactly is this Wei Dongliu? Wei Dongliu was talking when he suddenly heard mysterious person setting, synchronization value +1, and he was also puzzled. If you want to find a place with abundant spiritual energy, I know one. Jiangling said with a smile. She mobilized the sword light and flew down with Wei Dongliu, hiding in the wood at the foot of the mountain, and then turned around and entered a rock peak. After walking through the narrow rock peak for a while, suddenly the view in front of her was clear. It turned out that there was a huge space inside Shipping Mountain. There was a mountain stream flowing down, gathering into a lake in the valley on the ground, and then flowing into the underground water system. There was also skylight falling from the small hole in the top gap, illuminating the valley. There was also a breeze seeping out from the crack in the rock peak, blowing the valley transparent. With light, water and air, a large number of wildflowers and weeds grew in the moist soil by the lake. Even in the center of the skylight, in the depression by the lake, there was a wild peach tree. Although the branches were rugged and rough, it grew vigorously and pleasingly. Wei Dongliu was delighted and was very satisfied with this kind of winding path leading to a secluded place and a different world, but Jiangling was reluctant to leave. You know, this secret hinterland was discovered by chance. Although there are no relics in it, the scenery is unique, which makes her linger. But now, in order to prevent Wei Dongliu's existence from being exposed to worldly, she has to contribute it and make it the residence of Tongshuan men, but it doesn't matter, anyway, I can still come here to play from time to time. As long as Wei Dongliu sets up a sect here and accepts disciples, he will not be able to pat his butt and walk away if he has a conflict with Sister Ada later. In short, this suspected master must be tied here first. Wei Dongliu didn't know what she was thinking. He only knew that this demon head in a Jin's mouth was sweet and beautiful, and could contribute synchronization value to himself, and found a suitable sect residence for himself. How could she be considered a female demon head? She is simply my confidante of Wei. You are so stupid. Kumlin Jing said earnestly, how could they help you wholeheartedly? They must have other intentions. Then Jin, aren't you also helping me wholeheartedly? Wei Dongliu laughed. Jin, you have other intentions. Kumlin Jing almost vomited blood when he heard this. We're exchanging interests, okay? And even if we're allies of interests, it doesn't prevent me from planning to stab you in the back, not to mention this female devil. You don't even know what she wants from you now, how can you trust her so easily? Chapter 148 Accept a senior disciple first. It took Wei Dongliu several days to finally finish arranging the formation. The first is the Valley Protection Formation, which covers the entire valley. The function is to temporarily trap the enemy so that they cannot find their position. At the time, as long as he sits in the Valley Protection Formation, and then pulls out the acquired 5 elements Extinction Divine Light, and brushes it towards the opposite side, even the Jin and Zenrum will brush off a layer of skin. The second is the Channel Formation, which covers the passage to the rock peak here. The function is to cover the entrance and confuse the enemy so that they cannot find the entrance to the rock peak, or think that the rock peak is just a dead end. After arranging the formation, he began to build houses. The style and distribution of the houses are based on the ancient Jirizhou style under the Wuzi Islands. The moist depression near the lake in the center is the area for planting spiritual flowers and herbs. There are disciples' houses, storage rooms, elixir rooms, quiet rooms, and even prisons around. Building houses in the cultivation sect is generally done by hiring mortals. If it is a small sect that is unwilling to pay, they can only let their own disciples do it. But if there is no Taoist method of wood or earth, the cultivators can't build houses quickly. But if the 5 elements divine light is used, it only takes a light brush to freely control the growth of wooden trunks and the land to rise into walls. It is so convenient. After entering the transformation stage, the true key becomes condensed true essence, and the acquired 5 elements great extinction divine light can finally exert at least its power. At least it will not be like before, brushing for a few seconds and then directly exhausting the sea of ki. After the infrastructure was built, Wei Dongliu was ready to go out and find some disciples to fill the facade. Wei Dongliu's identity is not to lurk in any sect, but to collect information and intelligence on the hell. It is definitely not enough to do it alone. First recruit a group of disciples, and then use the disciples' social circle to expand the source of information as much as possible. Leaving the valley and walking into the rock peak, Wei Dongliu was surprised to see that Jianglin was standing in the center of the rock peak passage, with a calm expression and vigilantly looking around. It turned out that she was trapped by the formation. Hey, why does it seem familiar? After thinking carefully for a moment, he remembered that when they were on the overseas island, Shili was also trapped by his formation. It's just that Mishi was panicked and wandered around, while Witch Jing had a calm expression and observed the surroundings vigilantly. From this, it can be seen that Witch Jing's experience in fighting is rich, probably more than 1,000 times that of Mishi. Wei Dongliu waved his hand to untie the formation, and saw Jianglin looking over, with an expression that seemed to have a sense of relief and resentment. Friend Wei. She quickly concealed her negative emotions and smiled sweetly again. Was that a formation just now? Just a little trick. Wei Dongliu said lightly. I didn't expect that there is knowledge of formations in the inheritance of Tongxuan sect. Jianglin said half-truthfully, I fell into the formation without a sound, and I couldn't even find the slightest flaw. If fellow Daoist Wei hadn't rescued me, I would have been at the mercy of others. Unfair Tongxuan sect, since it is called this name, it is naturally eclectic. Wei Dongliu explained patiently, Taoism, swordsmanship, formations, and strange objects, basically I know a little bit. Jianglin's mind moved slightly, thinking to herself. Although Wei Dongliu has inherited the Jirizhao, why does he speak in a rigid style of the Chanzhou? We in the Jirizhao don't care about names and meanings match, we just call it whatever we want. Who stipulates that if you are called Wanfair, you must be proficient in all methods? However, such a thought of criticism only went around in her mind and was quickly suppressed. I plan to recruit a few disciples when I go out this time. Wei Dongliu said again. Recruiting disciples? Jianglin thought for a moment and said with a smile, what kind of disciples do you plan to recruit, fellow Daoist Wei? Honest and obedient. What else? That's all. Wei Dongliu said in surprise, isn't that enough? Jianglin was also a little speechless. You are looking for a successor. Even if you can't find someone with high aptitude for cultivation, after all, the geniuses have been picked up by the big sects, at least find someone who is smart and clever. How can you only look for someone who is honest and obedient? This condition is too simple. Witch Jing covered her mouth and laughed. Fellow Daoist Wei, go to the kind of remote mountain village and find that kind of dark and thin children who haven't eaten a few meals. I guarantee that they are all obedient and honest. What she meant was that honest and obedient are equal to stupid and dull. Aren't there stupid people everywhere? Unexpectedly, Wei Dongliu nodded and said, I see, I'm enlightened. In the eyes of the eldest son of Wei Dongliu, the first apprentice must be honest and obedient, so that he can be his confidant. The information obtained by other junior brothers and sisters would be summarized by him before being passed on to him. In such an important position, if the person sitting here has some ulterior motives and does some things that are counterproductive, the harm would be too great. It is better to be a little stupid and dull, but loyalty must come first. Jianglin did not understand his logic at all. Seeing that he still refused to tell the truth, he could only sigh and say, in this case, then I will take fellow Daoist Wei out for a walk. To the west is the ancient city of Shangdane. We often go there to collect raw materials, slip of the tongue. The main thing is to find some mortals with flexible brains to come and help practice the skills. That's great, please lead the way, fellow Daoist Jiang. Wei Dongliu didn't care how this witch practiced magic skills. Since she offered to help lead the way, it couldn't be better. The two left the shipping mountain area and flew towards Shangding City in the west with swords. Shangding in Jinzthong, the ancient city of Zhao State, is now called Luzhou and Yuan Prefecture. It is a city located on the Loess Plateau. The two landed near the city to avoid attracting unnecessary attention, and then pretended to be mortals and walked into the city. Jianglin even used the 10-phase explanation method to disguise her exquisite appearance into an ordinary one, which made Wei Dongliu look at her a few more times in surprise. The 10-phase explanation method is really something that everyone in the Heavenly Demonic Dojo can do. The last time Luo Yan was in the Wazi Islands, he also met a female disciple of the Heavenly Demonic Dojo who knew the 10 aspects of interpretation. If Brother Wei wants to recruit disciples, the other party must at least be literate. Walking on the crowded street, Jianglin said with a smile, if they can't read, they can't understand the Taoist scriptures. Does Brother Wei want to teach them to read first? On the other hand, it's better if the other party is younger and their thoughts are not yet formed, so it will be easier to cultivate them. Otherwise, after being trained in the world for too long, it is inevitable that they will have deep roots, which will be detrimental to their subsequent cultivation. Combining the two, going to some cheap private schools and finding those good family children who are studying is the most suitable choice. Indeed. Wei Dongliu nodded, expressing his affirmation of the judgment of the demon girl Jiang. Chapter 149. Is this disciple stupid? Wei Dongliu and Jiang sat side by side under the sycamore tree in the courtyard, listening to the sound of reading aloud coming from inside. According to Jiang, those who stayed in the private school after school was over must be the most honest ones. Wei Dongliu agreed with this. After all, he had also been to high school in his previous life, and he knew what kind of character a test taker was. That was the hard-working person who would stay to read more books when the school bell rang. By the way, why is Brother Jiang so eager to help me? Seeing that it was still early, Wei Dongliu asked casually. You and I hit it off right away, why can't I help you? Jianglin's eyes turned and she glanced at him charmingly. There was also illusion mixed in here, and the Kunlun mirror was numb, so it could only block it all silently. Wei Dongliu was unaware and just continued to ask. How do you get along? Get along, do I need to explain? Jianglin put her hand on his leg and said delicately, I fell in love with you at first sight. If you don't mind, I'm willing to offer myself to you. How many children do you want to have after marriage? Wei Dongliu asked suddenly. I don't want to have any. Jianglin was stunned for a moment and said, it's too troublesome to take care of the children. Then I'm sorry, I can't accept it. Wei Dongliu moved his body away. Jianglin was silent for a moment, and suddenly couldn't help laughing so hard that tears came out. You're really interesting. She wiped her eyes and said, we are all practitioners, what's the point of having a child? What's the point of a woman? Wei Dongliu asked her back. Jianglin was stuck when she heard this, and she became angry after a while. Great, it turns out that you have planned it in advance, and you are here to stop me with words. From the very beginning, Wei Dongliu did not believe her lie of love at first sight, but deliberately went with the flow and blocked her with the topic of having a child. It seems that the get out of class is over. Wei Dongliu said suddenly. He saw a group of teenagers pouring out of the private school. The teenagers were at the most active age and couldn't wait to go to the suburbs to fly kites. The old tutor also walked out of the room, holding a scroll in his hand, and his expression seemed a little tired and bored. After the disciples and the tutor left, Wei Dongliu walked to the window frame and saw a teenager still sitting in the corner of the school, reading the book attentively. The boy had a full forehead, a high nose bridge, and a simple and honest appearance. But his brows were furrowed, his lips were tightly pursed, and he looked like a poor student who said, I'm trying hard to understand, why can't I understand it? This guy is honest and loyal at first glance. Jianglin laughed softly beside him. Doorway, does he meet your requirements? Whether he meets your requirements or not, we should ask first. Wei Dongliu walked into the school hall and came to his side. The young man looked up and stood up quickly, saluted respectfully and said, Hello, teacher. Wei Dongliu waved his hand, indicating that he didn't need to be restrained. He didn't clarify that he was not actually a private school lecturer. He just asked lightly, What's your name? Teacher, my surname is Guo and my name is Jin. The young man replied. Wei Dongliu. Guo Jin. He couldn't help laughing and said, It's a good name. What book are you reading? I'm reading Guoyuan Zhuan. Is there anything you don't understand? Wei Dongliu waved his hand. Guoyuan Zhuan is one of the 13 Confucian classics. Luo Yan had read it in Yu King Temple before to kill time. Teacher, I basically don't understand anything. Guo Jin said honestly. Poof. Jianglin outside couldn't help laughing, and Wei Dongliu couldn't hold back his expression either, frowning and saying, Since you can't understand it, why don't you ask the tutor? Teacher, Guo Jin said seriously, the tutor said, read a book 100 times, and its meaning will become clear. I have read it for the 67th time. Ha 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 ha. Jianglin almost rolled on the ground with laughter, and Wei Dongliu also hesitated. The first impression this boy gave him was actually quite good, but now it seems, this is not honesty and loyalty, this seems to be stupid. He subconsciously wanted to give up and leave, but then he thought, after all, this boy's name is Guo Jin, could he be a typical example of great wisdom and late success? Let me ask you, Wei Dongliu continued, if you still don't understand it after reading it 100 times, what will you do? I will go and ask the tutor, Guo Jin replied. If the tutor says that you are still like this after reading it 100 times, it means that you have no talent for reading. What will you do? Guo Jin heard this, his thick eyebrows were tangled, and after a while he said, "Then I will change your tutor and continue to study." Oh? Wei Dongliu was a little surprised. Why? If Guo Jin said then I won't study, he promised to turn around and leave immediately, but he didn't expect that this boy would still have a stubborn side. In reply to the teacher's words, Guo Jin said seriously, "My mother once said that merits and demerits, right and wrong, should not be completely listened to. If the tutor says that I have no talent for reading, then I must first confirm whether it is true, otherwise it would be biased belief in others' words, which violates my mother's advice." Wei Dongliu pondered for a moment and changed his mind a little. In this way, this boy is not stupid, but just simple-minded, which can be seen from the fact that he regards the words of his deceased mother as a criterion. In other words, a simple mind can often be equated with loyalty, which is the talent that Wei Dongliu values most at this time. "Your mother has passed away, so is there anyone else in your family?" he continued to ask gently. "No." Guo Jin shook his head. "Before my mother died, she sold the house for money and asked the village chief to guarantee it to the private school so that I could live in the private school to study." Wei Dongliu nodded. This mother is really good at calculating. Guo Jin lost his mother at a young age, and it was impossible for him to keep the family property. In the end, it would inevitably be divided up by distant relatives who came from nowhere. So the family property was sold in advance, and the village chief was used as a guarantor. The village chief must have benefited from it, to give it to the private school in the city in exchange for the private school to take in Guo Jin, in the name of living and studying, but in fact as an apprentice. The private school collected a large amount of tuition fees, and with the village chief's guarantee and supervision, it would naturally not refuse to let Guo Jin enroll. If Guo Jin has a promising future in his studies, the private school will do its best to cultivate him. Even if he graduates as a scholar, the teachers will also be proud. If he can't make good grades, the private school will get tired of him sooner or later and won't let him stay there for the rest of his life, but by then, he will probably be able to read and write, and he can help the villagers write letters home, so he won't have to make a living. Before she died, this mother did her best to arrange for her son. Let me ask you. Thinking of this, Wei Dongliu said in a deep voice, "Are you willing to learn Taoism from me?" Guo Jin was stunned for a moment and asked, "What is Taoism?" Wei Dongliu was stuck. "Your question is a bit scary. What is Taoism?" This question itself points directly to the Taoism. Lao Tzu once said, "The Taoism that can be spoken is not the real Taoism," which means that the Taoism that you can understand at your level cannot be the real Taoism. Seeing that Wei Dongliu couldn't answer, Guo Jin said sympathetically, "Thank you for your appreciation, teacher. I have no plans to find another teacher for the time being. You should ask for another master." The idiom "ask for another master" is used incorrectly. Wei Dongliu left the school with a gloomy face, and saw Jiang Lin covering his mouth with his left hand, holding the wall with his right hand, and his shoulders twitching. "What are you laughing at, Brother Jiang?" he asked with empty eyes. "I'm not laughing." Jiang Lin tried to make his voice calm. "You're obviously laughing." Wei Dongliu was furious. "You never stopped." Chapter 150. As long as she's cute, it doesn't matter if she's a witch. In the courtyard, Jiang Lin finally stopped laughing and began to comfort Wei Dongliu insincerely. "It's okay, fellow Taoist Wei. I think that boy is quite stupid and doesn't look like a good candidate for cultivation. How about we go to other private schools?" Wei Dongliu glanced at him expressionlessly. He was not looking for a successor, but a trusted confidant. Of course, he couldn't tell which Jiang directly. After calming down for a moment, Wei Dongliu came up with another plan and discussed with which Jiang with a smile. "Didn't Guo Jin have to listen to the tutor? As long as I can deal with the tutor, won't I be able to deal with that boy?" Which Jiang was silent after hearing this, and her mind turned rapidly. What's wrong with Wei Dongliu? Why does he have to keep an eye on that boy? Could it be that the boy named Guo Jin has some special qualifications for cultivation? After thinking for a while, she overturned this guess. No. Long before coming here, Wei Dongliu had decided to find an obedient disciple. It should be the same for wanting to accept Guo Jin. It is unlikely that he has any qualification for cultivation. After a while, the two saw the old tutor coming back drunkenly with a bunch of bacon. Wei Dongliu walked up and asked directly, "Old sir, do you have a disciple named Guo Jin?" The old tutor looked up when he heard it, and was about to get angry, but suddenly he held back. Shangdang City is close to the southern section of Taihang Mountain. There are often demon monks coming here to collect materials. Therefore, most civilians are also very vigilant and know what there is a difference between immortals and people are the butchers. Although the man and woman in front of them do not look overbearing, they do not have the courtesy of the younger generation to the elderly. They directly ask about his disciples when they meet. What if he is a cultivator? Thinking of this, the old tutor sobered up a little and stammered, "He is not my disciple, but his mother let him live in the private school. May I ask, what can I do for you?" "Perhaps I can help. This boy and I have a destiny. I want him to learn Taoism from me." Wei Dongliu went straight to the point. "He is indeed a cultivator." The old tutor nodded hurriedly and said, "The immortal can take a liking to Guo Jin. It is indeed the good fortune he cultivated in his previous life. I will go and explain it to him immediately." Taking the two back to the classroom, Guo Jin saw the old tutor coming in aggressively, and hurriedly stood up to salute, but the old tutor stretched out his hands and pressed his shoulders, smiling and said, "Guo Jin, I have watched you grow up since you were a child, and I have long known that you're destined to have great fortune. Now the Immortal Master wants to accept you as a disciple. It is your good fortune. Go pack up and go with the Immortal Master." Guo Jin was confused at the time, and after a long while he said, "But, don't say buts." The old tutor knew what he was going to say. It must be some nonsense like "I can't switch to another master." Of course, he knew Guo Jin's honesty and stubbornness very well. The problem is that the one who likes him now is a cultivator. If the other party killed him with a sword, and then said gloomily, "You'll have no master now," where can he go to complain? Therefore, the old tutor interrupted him without waiting for him to say anything. "Your mother asked you to stay in my private school, but she didn't say that you must study with me. In fact, your mother has asked the village chief to tell me that if there is a chance, she will send you to a better place to study. Isn't the opportunity here now?" As soon as the old tutor mentioned his mother, Guo Jin was deceived and said honestly, "Since it is the tutor's order, Guo Jin dare not disobey." He stood up from the table, first knelt in front of Wei Dongliu, and kowtowed to him. "Disciple greets the master." "Okay." Wei Dongliu nodded and said, "If it is according to the customs of mortals, you have to bring a gift when you become a disciple," but he naturally doesn't care about these etiquette. Guo Jin straightened his upper body and looked at Jiangling next to him with hesitation. This sister obviously came with the master. It would be bad if he didn't pay respects. But how should he address her? He suddenly had an idea and turned around to kowtow to Jiangmonu. "Disciple greets master's wife." Poof. Wei Dongliu almost burst out laughing. Jiangling was also a little surprised, but he reacted in an instant and didn't deny it. He just smiled and reached into his sleeve, took out a silver needle, and said, "Good child. I don't bring anything else here, only a about Misuyan needle, so I'll give it to you as a gift." Guo Jin didn't take it. He just saw Wei Dongliu's face showing a strange color, and immediately realized that something was wrong. He said cautiously, "My master is here, and I dare not accept it. Take it." Wei Dongliu sighed. As for the relationship between himself and Jiangling, there is no need to explain it here clearly. The old tutor, an irrelevant person, is still next to him. "Congratulations, master, for accepting a disciple." Seeing his unfriendly look, the old tutor said hurriedly, "I'll go get Guo Jin's bedding and clothes." "No need." Wei Dongliu waved his hand, and he and Jiangling took Guo Jin out of the classroom. The two of them pulled out sword lights at the same time, and then caught Guo Jin unprepared, and directly soared into the sky. Seeing the two people turning into light and leaving, the old tutor stood for a long time, and then sat down on the ground, with a large piece of cold sweat on his back. Taking Guo Jin back to shipping mounting, Wei Dongliu waved his sleeves to untie the formation and drove the sword light in. Jiangling said nothing, but followed shamelessly. Passing through the long rock tunnel, the two came to the belly of shipping mounting. Jiangling saw the scenery in the valley, and his expression suddenly became a little strange. "I saw that the swamp depression by the lake was originally overgrown with wildflowers and weeds, but now most of them have been removed, and the few good-looking ones have been transplanted elsewhere, and then various spiritual herbs and medicines have been planted. There are many stone houses built around. They are arranged like stars and dots, seemingly random and casual, but if you look closely, they seem to contain the meaning of Kim and Anjia." Jiangmonu suddenly remembered that the style and arrangement of this stone house seemed to have been seen in the illustrations of the ancient Jirizhao books in Tianmobo, at least it was a similar layout. Of course, she herself did not understand the knowledge of the formation, and could not recognize the specific mysteriousness of it, but she could see that there was an extremely powerful formation inside. Is this person really proficient in the formation? But it is hidden so deeply. Wei Dongliu heard the Kunlun mirror prompt again, and the synchronization value of the mysterious personality rose rapidly. He thought that Jiang Moon was really cute. What ill intentions, what treacherous thoughts, all of them don't matter. After all, this is the territory of the demon sect. Do you really expect that the monks you meet are all the kind of people who are kind to others? Anyway, as long as they are cute, it's alright. He was secretly happy, but he didn't show any expression on his face. He just turned around and said to Guo Jin, "My name is Wei, and this is fellow Daoist Jiang. Don't make the mistake next time." Disciple greets Senior Jiang. Guo Jin hurriedly apologized nervously, "I'm really ashamed of my previous mistake, it's just a name, but it doesn't matter." Jiang Lin said with a smile, "Fellow Daoist Wei won't mind, right?" Wei Dongliu. He ignored Jiang Lin and continued to talk to Guo Jin. "The name of our sect is Wan Fe Tongshuan sect, which inherits the Taoist tradition of Jie Tongshuan's Hinram of the ancient Jie Jiao. You must remember it." Yes, disciple remembers it. Guo Jin repeated it silently in his heart several times and said seriously, "Jie Tongshuan's Hinram of the ancient Jie Jiao." Jiang Lin also secretly made a note of it in his heart, intending to go back to Bian Palace to check the details of this name. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.